Good morning, everyone. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted via WebEx, an online digital platform, and will be live streamed via the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. My name is Nancy Oman and I will be chairing this hearing. Panel members participating via WebEx and who can be seen and heard are Lisa Valentini, Yim Chan, Larry Clay, and Carl Niffel. City staff will be assisting us throughout the meeting, including moderating the WebEx platform. Agents, applicants, and other interested parties participating in this virtual hearing registered in advance and will be connecting through WebEx using a compatible electronic device. Their participation will be through audio only. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and it is now home to many diverse First Nations and Inuit and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to the property, permission to extend or alter lawful nonconforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone who wants to receive a copy of the committee's decision for an application must submit a written request by email to the general email address for the Committee of Adjustment, Toronto and East York District Office. Please include your name, address, and an email address. All Committee of Adjustment and TLAB notifications and appeal updates will be sent by email only. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body known as TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal known as LPAT. Appeal instructions will be set out at the bottom of the committee's decision. Participants who have registered in advance will be connected to this virtual hearing and will be muted automatically upon entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I'll comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please speak slowly and clearly state your name and address. Please confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. Where required, the applicant or agent will proceed first with a presentation of the application, and then individuals in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have completed their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will be unmuted and will have an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion and the application will be taken into committee for a decision. Please note, the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice are informed of the changes. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have the minutes of the last Committee of Adjustment public hearing been confirmed by the members?
Yes, they have.
Okay, panel members, can I have a motion to adopt the minutes? Moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Ms. Valentini. All in favor? Okay, the minutes of the last meeting have been adopted. Members or staff, do you have any interests to declare in any of the items here this morning? Mr. Nipfel.
Madam Chairman, I have a potential conflict with regard to number 20, 147 Durant Avenue. I own property near the subject site.
Okay, thank you. Any other interests to declare? Seeing none. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are you aware of any requests to close or withdraw any applications this morning?
None today, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, panel members will now proceed with the hearing. I'd just like to note that item number 10 will be held until the end of the morning's time slot due to a conflict, a timing scheduling conflict that the agent has. Okay, so if you can just mark that, we'll hold that until the end of the morning session. Okay. All right, item number 1 is 199 Palmerston Avenue. The committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a previous decision that affects the subject property. We have staff reports from planning and transportation, from transportation services. And we have forestry asking for condition number 1. We have 17 form letters in support from residents on Bathurst Street, Manning Avenue, and Palmerston Avenue. We have correspondence in opposition from Palmerston, a resident in the Palmerston neighborhood. We had 2 speakers listed. 1 speaker has canceled, so we do have 1 speaker in opposition who's at 232 Palmerston. Is the agent on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, we do have 1 speaker in opposition, sir. If I can ask you to do a presentation, no more than 5 minutes, starting now.
Oh, sure. Good morning, Madam Chair and members. My name is Yue Feng, and my address is 341 Baldwin Street West. I'm the agent for 199 Palmerston Avenue. This building is local at Little Italy, and this 3-story building is really common in this area. And the proposed building is 2.6 meters shorter than the existing building, and 28 centimeters narrower than the existing building. We are keeping the same height with the existing building, and we also make the emergency access wider than the existing one. I believe this is really reasonable design, and we made this neighborhood a better place, and we have 17 support letters. And there is 21 buildings have been approved by committee adjustment within 5 years, and that's it.
Okay, I just have a question. Are you aware of the transportation report, sir? They're requiring you to set the garage back from the center line of the public laneway, 2.5 meters.
Yes, please say the what's called the site plan. We already moved back.
Okay.
So we already made a 2.8 meters from the center line.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to the opposition, and we'll have you back to address any concerns. Ms. Strasberg, are you on the line? Okay, so we don't have anybody. Okay, panel members, do you, we've lost the speaker. We've attempted to contact them several times. Do you have any questions of the applicant while we try one more time? Ms. Chen, I'm sorry.
Yes, I have a small question. The same issue about the rear lot line setback. Transportation one need to be revised to 2.5 meter from the center line. But so variance number 12, is anything going to be changed? Is it still correct? Variance number 12, go to the variance. It says 0.28 meter from the lot line. Does that represent 2.5 meter from the center of the lane? Go to number 12. Go down to 12. Yeah.
Mr. Feng, can you answer that question, please, regarding?
Yes, we already moved back
No, my question is it the same as what it says on on 12? It is on
Yes,
2
yes.
from the rear lot line, representing the same thing as 2.5
Yes.
meter from the
Yes.
center of the lane?
Yes, the same, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So nothing changed there.
thank
But then
you.
why do we need to amend it?
I don't think
the
we do. I
transportation
think, like, I'm not sure, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, that we need to consider the transportation report if it's been set back 2.8 and the variances match it.
Yes, because if it's the same, why do we need to amend it?
We don't.
Oh, because this is the second revision, and the first revision and is without the 0.28 setback. But after I read the transport report, I move back 2.8 meters.
Okay,
0.28.
so
Yes, yeah.
you saw the report before you made the electronic submissions then, is that correct?
Yes, correct, yes.
Okay. Ms. Valentini?
So just to kind of expand on that, I am looking at the site plan and it's dated February 22nd. But the transportation memo is June 1st. I don't know. So do we have the correct plans before us then, sir?
Yes, that's correct, yes, yeah.
Even though it's dated before the transportation memo? Because it's noted received by the committee February 22nd. So I don't think it's actually dated.
Yeah, I think you're right, yes, yeah.
Okay, but if the transportation memo is dated after your date of submission here, we've got it marked as February 22nd.
Yeah, I think the date is old date, and I didn't update the correct date. Sorry about that.
No. The date is noted by the committee of adjustment. It's not as received. I don't think the plan is actually dated that I can see.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we have the right plans. I don't know. That's fine.
Yes, the correct plan. This correct plan. Yes.
I don't think so, because the plans are based on the zoning review is based on the plans, and that's what was mailed, and that's what the committee has before them. Now, Transportation Services submitted a report in June asking for the setback from the center line of the road. So the committee is asking, won't that affect your variances?
Okay, you can put it in the condition. I make sure if there 2.5 meters from the center line from my garage.
But they want to know what that would change your variance to.
So that goes back to Ms. Chan's question regarding variance number 12. Will that variance change if with the amendment that Transportation's requesting? You there?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, did you
No.
did you hear the question? Again, Ms. Chan,
Yes,
Ms.
I
Chan
heard
asked you,
that.
yeah, Ms. Chan asked you earlier about variance number 12. So the plans are not reflecting the condition that Transportation wants with the 2.5 setback from the center line. You say you've changed it to 2.8. We don't have the correct site plan. And does it affect variance number 12 is the question again.
Can I just jump in?
Sure.
I don't know if transportation memo is correct or not. It's up to the applicant to decide, but it does say here that the structure needs to be set back 0.3 meters from the property line because the laneway is 4.4 meters wide. So I don't know if that means the variance is supposed to be 0.3. You know, that's not my call, but I'm just pointing that out from the transportation
No,
memo.
Lisa, I have the same logic. I think that if I asked the question, but I thought that I'm just waiting for correction. But my understanding is that the variance number 12 to read to 3 meters, 0.3 meter from the lot line, and which will be equivalent to 2.5 meter from the center of the lane. That's what my understanding is. But
Yes,
it
that's
doesn't
correct,
seem
yes.
to be understood. It has
So
to
then-
have amended variance 12 to read as 0.3 meter from the lot line.
So, sir, are you changing your application so that variance 12 is a setback of 0.3 instead of 0.28?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
Thank you, members.
Okay. Any other questions, panel members? Okay, let's take it into committee. So basically, we're looking at attaching the transportation report, forestry number 1, and amending variance number 12. Is it 0.3 meters? Did I get that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So any comments, panel members?
Madam Chairman, I had some initial quite serious reservations about this application. I still have some concerns. It seems to me that with 16 variances of this size, none of them are minor, and there are 16 of them. I have serious questions as a planner whether or not this is in fact a variance application or whether it's a bylaw amendment. However, there is nothing from the planning department weighing in on the issue and indicating that they would agree with that position. So I will shelve that, although I will indicate that that was my initial concern, that the number of variances are really quite extensive. I also had some initial concerns with the height of the building. I will note that the top floor is slightly pitched back to, I believe, to try and offset some of the height concerns. So with the absence of a planning department report that would agree with those concerns, I would be prepared to move approval of the application subject to forestry condition number 1 and the transportation condition that was mentioned previously, and the application as revised with variance number 12 adjusted to 0.3 setback.
Are there any, Ms. Chan?
Yeah, I can second that, and my opinions is actually the feeling is really coincide with Carl's. Initially, I said, "Oh wow, there's a lot of variances," but also, and I look at the variances, a lot of, for example, even the one that we just talked about, and also the height. I said that they can easily comply if they want to. So I thought there's certain things that can be mitigated. But when I look at it, the neighborhood, I walk by it often, and then they consist of very large homes that are already subdivided into multiple units, and these lots are very wide. And then in terms of massing, and I look at the design, it actually will fit in the neighborhood. And also they do have a lot of supports in the area. So I'm willing to second it with all the concerns I have.
Okay, I'll just add that both adjacent neighbors are in support. Anybody have anything else to add? All right, so I have, do you want to do your motion again, Mr. Nipfel? So it's to approve.
Certainly, Madam Chairman. It's to approve with condition or variance number 12 altered to read 0.3 meters from the rear property line, and subject to forestry condition number 1 and the transportation condition with regard to the setback from the center line of the lane.
Okay, and that's seconded by Ms. Chan. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved, sir. Thank you. Item number 2, 88 Admiral Road. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have planning rationale from Mr. Rendell, the consultant. We have forestry asking for condition number 2. We have form letters from 92, 131, 153, and 90 Admiral Road, and correspondence in opposition from the Annex Residents Association. And I am showing 2 speakers. Do we have them both? Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, it's Roy Lienitz of Fluid Living Studio present.
Okay, before I ask you to do a presentation, I'm just gonna see what the person, it's showing an interest. I'm not sure if they're opposed or not. So, Mr. Cannon, are you on the line? Mr. Cannon? You don't have him?
Hi, Rennie, can you hear us? I see you on the line. Did I just hear?
Mr. Cannon? Okay, planning members or panel members, sorry, when we, do you have any questions while we're trying to connect with this resident and the other one also? Do you have any questions for the agent while we're waiting? No?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, is this Mr. Cannon?
If you can't hear me, I don't have any objections to the application. I'm just attending, sorry.
Oh, okay, thank you. I can hear you, but apparently you can't hear me. But, okay, so you have no objections. Thank you, sir. And the other one you've attempted, we can't get a hold of them. Okay, so we have no questions for Mr. Bansi, panel members. We don't have any objectors, so if you have no questions. Mr. Bansi, we've read the material and we're ready to go into committee. Is there anything you would like to add before we do so that's not in the electronic submissions?
At this point, I mean, if a full presentation is not required, I'd just like to add to the fact that the committee planning staff did speak to this proposal back in January of 2021 and did ask that they had concerns over the soft landscaping, and as a result we've added a green roof to the top of the proposed structure, which will add 60.4 square meters of green roof. And they also had concerns on the south end with regards to shadowing and privacy, and as a result we did bring the second floor of the structure in a total of 1.5 meters, which planning staff was quite satisfied with.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. All right, panel
Thank
member, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying thank you.
Oh, okay, thought you wanted to add something else. All right, panel members, we're ready to go into committee for a decision. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I am happy to start on this one. I guess initially when you look at the proposal, the fact that it says 2 stories aren't allowed, it's a in terms of ancillary buildings. Some of the variances look rather large, but I think the existing building is already rather large. And it's already a 2-story building. I don't think they're adding that much in terms of additional square footage, well, they're not. And they are making it, larger in terms of it being a flat roof structure, but I think as the applicant has just described, that it's offset on one side, so it's step back. So that'll reduce any impact. I'm in support of the application myself. I don't know if my panel members want to add anything. I'm happy to bring a motion in otherwise.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring a motion for approval of the application. And it's going to be subject to urban forestry condition number 2. And in my view, I believe this meets the 4 tests for minor variance.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Clay? Okay, motion to approve, including forestry number 2, moved by Ms. Valentini, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved. Thank you, sir. Okay, item number 3, 100 Poplar Plains Road. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have presentation materials submitted by the agent, We have a staff report from engineering asking for conditions, and correspondence in support from number 110 and number 98. 98 is adjacent to this property. Okay, I'm showing one speaker, but I believe that this individual's in support. Is the agent on the line?
Yes, Robert McCarthy, the agent.
Okay, let me just go to the listed speaker. Mr. Edelstein, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, did you want to say something in support, sir, or you're just listening in?
We live next door on the north side at number 104 Poplar Plains Road. We've had a number of consultations with the applicant, and the applicant has agreed to repair our property upon completion of their project. With that, we are in support of their application.
Okay, can you just repeat? The volume was really low here. What did you say about the applicant has agreed to? I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah, I heard about the, you know, that there was consultation and whatnot, but
Yeah, we live at number 104 Poplar Plains, directly north of the applicant's property. We've had a number of meetings with the applicant to review the work that they are proposing at the property line and impacts our property. And the applicant has agreed to repair our property back to its its existing condition.
Okay.
With that agreement, we are in support of their application.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just want to make note of the fact that that's an agreement between the two of you, and it's not within our jurisdiction to put any conditions into the decision for. Okay, panel members, do you have any questions for the agent? Mr. Nipfel?
Is there an elevation drawing that shows the proposed elevation in context with the attached semi-detached dwelling? We normally request or require those for semi-detached alterations.
We have on the cover page a 3D rendering showing.
But it doesn't show the adjacent property. I've made assumptions that it's reasonably okay, but I really think you put us at a disadvantage by not giving us a composite elevation.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, the only thing we have, so yeah, we don't have an elevation drawing, but we massed it up in 3D, and it's it shows the massing and the height of the main walls there. Yeah. But we don't have that in 2D on the elevation. Yeah.
Okay, maybe next time.
Yeah, noted.
Okay, any other questions, panel members? Mr. Clay?
Yeah, just quickly, I've went through all the site plan and renderings and just trying to figure out what kind of barrier or screening you're proposing for this terrace over the second floor. Is it a front terrace? It's facing the street, right?
Yeah, we're trying to reduce our third floor by pushing the third floor with a great setback. Which also creates a rooftop terrace at the front.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to determine sort of, are you having a fence or screening or wing or what it looked like from the rendering? It just looks like plant.
Right. There's like what we're building is the main wall of the parapet comes up higher than the terrace level, and that is we're keeping that to a certain height. We spoke with Catherine Young, the area planner, and she requested that to be a certain height. And then to bring us up to guard height, so people don't fall up front, we've got a rail behind there. It'll either be like a metal picket or glass guard of some sort. And then large planters is intended. They're not in the drawing, but intended to be a pretty lush garden up there.
So I think I heard you say there is a railing or some sort of glass screening. That's all, trying to make sure that there is something up there that sort of surrounds the perimeter of the terrace.
Yeah, if you look at drawing A301, there's a front elevation, and it shows a little bit clearly that the masonry wall stops, and then to get us up to guard height, there's a railing system behind that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, panel members? Ms. Valentini?
So just to build on that, in terms of that deck and the guardrail, normally, I mean, you know, I'm not concerned with your code requirements, but in terms of overlook, is it because at the front, because it's at the front, is there going to be any overlook to the rear yards of any of these adjacent neighbors from that, or is that the reason why the third floor is set back and the terrace is at the front?
I mean, the preference by the clients was they wanted a terrace at the front. They really like the view to the front. And I mean, yeah, the result of that is we don't have a rear, like we don't have overlook issues into the private backyards of our neighbors.
Thank you.
Any further questions, panel members?
Well, let's just confirm that the agent is aware of the engineering distance with respect to the reverse slope driveway and comfortable with making those provisions.
Yeah, that's an existing condition, and we do intend to hire an engineer to make sure that we have the proper drainage solution for that.
Great,
Okay.
thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, we're ready to go into committee. Is there anything else you want to add, sir, that's not in the electronic submissions before we do so?
Our side setback and front setback, like this is, you know, part of the exercise of what we're doing is we're trying to improve the appearance of the house. And it's currently uninsulated, and we want to keep the exposed brick wall on the inside. So we are adding insulation to the exterior of the building and new cladding. And we think this will, well, it'll improve the energy performance of the house and also really improve the appearance of it. And so that's why we have the side and front setback.
Okay, thank you. Okay, panel members, let's take it into committee for a decision.
Chair, I'm happy to start on this one. I thought I mean, we always have special scrutiny when these types of proposals are semi-detached, and I was heartened to hear that the owner kind of discussed and negotiated a settlement or a mutual agreement with the adjacent semi, which is always, I thought the design was actually quite private and thoughtful, and the variances being requested overall, I think, are relatively minor. So for those reasons, I would be supportive of this application. If my colleagues don't have further thoughts, I'm happy to move a motion to approve this application subject to the engineering conditions.
Okay,
I'd second the motion.
I have a motion to approve, including the engineering conditions in the March 15th report, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Nifl. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved. Thank you, sir. Item number 4, 264 Crawford Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 5 photographs of the property in question, previous decision affecting the subject property. We have a sun shadow study, staff reports from engineering, and they're asking for conditions. Forestry is asking for condition number 2. Planning is asking for refusal of variances 4 and 6. We have 12 form letters in support from residents on Crawford Street. And we have correspondence in opposition from 268 and 266 Crawford. Is the agent on the line?
Yes, Brad Netkin.
Okay, Mr. Netkin, are you
Can you hear me?
speaking? I see the owner listed. Are you speaking on behalf of the owner?
I'd like to speak first to address the architectural aspects of the project, and the owner would like to speak following me.
Okay, you have a total of 5 minutes combined. I do have three
Yeah.
speakers. I have 3 speakers listed. I'm not sure,
Okay.
one address, I'm not sure if these are tenants or if they're all owners. So I am gonna, do you have 3 on the line? Yeah, so I will need you to do a presentation. So if you want the owner to speak for the last, I don't know how you've divvied up the time, but I'll leave that up to you. So we're starting the clock now.
Yeah. I'll be very brief then. Good morning, everyone. So I've seen the planning report, the forestry and engineering reports. I think we can address. They're not an issue. So I'd like to address the sort of general architectural approach, which I think would address the planner's issues. So we're trying to, obviously, first and foremost, we did not want to demolish and dump the existing building footprint, which is why we're asking for the rear yard setback and the building width, which there is no objection by the planners on. Secondly, we are trying to, because of the rear yard setback, we tip the wall of the front wall or rear wall of the garage back to try to respect to that and also give it a somewhat residential character. And we also wanted to a sloped roof simply for durability and drainage, and also somewhat give it a somewhat residential character. In the rear yard, we are penetrating the 45-degree roof plane marginally to make the stair work. We've placed the stair in a manner that makes sort of the most sense functionally without kind of taking out a large portion of the functionality on the main level of the garage. And where we're penetrating the roof plane, the plane in the height, we're doing it only at the peak of the roof, not for the entire roof. And I included the shadow study and massing study in the submission to show that actually if you take the 3-dimensional character of the project and compare it to what would comply with the zoning bylaw, both in terms of massing, because the wall tips back, because the wall tips back, it would actually be have less of an impact visually on the laneway, and if you look at the shadow impacts, they're actually less with the roof line designed as it is, compared to if we had put a 6-meter high building right up on the setback line. So I think that if you take the 3-dimensional qualities of the proposal, I think it does meet the intention of the official plan, and the variances, I believe, are in fact minor. So I'll turn it over to Chander.
Hello, Miss.
Hello.
Hi, can you just identify yourself for the record, please?
Hi, Chandra Chad is my name. My wife, Lisa Monroe, and I have owned our house here for just coming on to 20 years. So just, you did see that we'd been at committee before. I just wanted to say the last time we went to committee was to get roof decks permitted. In that application, so too did our neighbors at 266 file against us. They weren't satisfied with the approval by the committee of that application, and they actually then appealed that to the Ontario Municipal Board. When we went to the Ontario Municipal Board, 2 very interesting comments were made. One by Angie, our neighbor next door, and one by the administration officer of the hearing. Angie, and it's almost a direct quote, said, if we moved the handrail on our 3rd floor roof deck by 1 inch, she'd be satisfied. That's my neighbor, okay? The other interesting comment was from the officer who said that Angie was disingenuous. Now, I look at the information that they filed against us, and I ask myself, if someone is so interested about the light and shade in their backyard, why would they allow a maple tree to grow to the point where it is now, where it is a protected tree? I've watched that tree grow from a seedling, okay? I've lived in the backyard where my neighbor's house runs the entire length of my backyard, save 3 feet, which is actually about 30% longer than a house is supposed to be, okay? It is you know, there is nothing that we can do on the exterior of our house where our neighbors are gonna be happy. The city has allowed us the right to put this second story on our garage. We are exercising that right. We are asking to make it a better second story than would otherwise be the case. And we're asking to do it with, quite frankly, the least amount of extrusion into our property, and also to have that affects the neighbors. I mean, if the city isn't happy with our variances applications for the setbacks on the lane side, that means we push our second floor back into our backyard, which basically brings it almost flush to the back of my neighbor's house, which actually even hurts them more than anything they're suggesting they're hurt by now. In terms of our height, we're asking for a variance of 8.3%. And I don't know, but to me, 8.3%, if that's not minor, I'm not even sure what the point is of a committee of adjustment application hearing on minor variances.
Mr. Chadha, I'm going to need you to wrap up because you're over 5 minutes.
That's fine.
Thanks.
That's really all I have to say at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Panel members, do you have
Just
questions?
wondered if I might, may I just, you misstated something. We have 5 letters of support on Shaw Street. We have 7 letters of support on Crawford. 2 of those letters of support on Shaw Street are almost directly behind our house. In other words,
Actually, what I stated was you had a total of 12 form letters in support.
and you
and
just
then
said
you-
Crawford Street. You didn't mention Shaw.
Oh, yeah, okay,
You
you're
wanted
right. I meant, it is here, sorry. I didn't see that, but you're
So
correct.
just to correct that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions of the speakers?
Mr. Chairman, or Madam Chairman, I have 1 or 2 questions. Could you clarify whether the existing garage is going to be demolished? The purpose says that you're building on top of the existing garage, but some of the supporting information tends to sound as though you're demolishing the garage and that the entire building is a rebuild or a new build.
No, we're not. When Forestry contacted me to speak to this and asked what we were doing, were we going to be excavating or anything of the sort,
Yeah.
I explained to Forestry, you know, we're gonna pour a new floor, obviously, but we have an existing garage. We have some concern that perhaps the south side of the garage we're gonna have to get underneath the footings of the south side because there's been a bit of settling. And obviously, we're not gonna build a new structure on top of a structure that's settling. So if we have to get into the south side, because that's where we see it, we see nothing of the sort on the north side, which abuts 266 Crawford, then we may in fact have to do some, you know, we may have to get underneath that footing. Now, we've underpinned a garage before at a different property. My expectation is that if we do have to get into that, we will do all that from the interior. We will take out the floor, we will excavate inside the garage, we will deal any underpinning or shoring up as necessary inside the garage. And that's, so in that sense, I think that conversation led the forestry department to wonder whether we were gonna be pulling it all down. No, if we pull it all down, we're building a new building, right?
Okay,
If we build a new building, then our garage itself has to be set back from the edge of the lane as opposed to maintain the existing structure. So no,
Okay.
no intention of tearing down the main floor.
My second question is, if the planning department recommendation is endorsed by committee, are you still able to proceed with the proposal? You'd have to make changes to the height and the positioning of the building relative to the angular plane, but does it basically, does it create a problem for you that you couldn't proceed?
I don't know if it creates a problem that we couldn't proceed. I think it creates a greater level of cost because, as I said, we need to, I would like this upper floor to be as functional as it can be, okay? And so we have this, you know, I mean, you can't even build a triple car garage in the city anymore, okay? We just happen to have one. So we're lucky in that sense. So we'd like, and we don't want to put the, you know, the first iteration of the drawings that came to me showed a staircase on the exterior of my garage, okay? And which would have given me even more space upstairs. And I said, no, I'd rather not do that. If we do that, I'm gonna have to cantilever over the garage. I'm gonna burn Jack and Angie even more because I'm gonna bring this to the back face of their house. I'd rather not do that. I'd like to try to make the least impact as possible. And so this is what we've looked at, right?
Okay.
Can we still build? Sure, we can still build. Would I
Okay.
prefer to build it presented? Yes, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Clay, before we go to the opposition, you had your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, it's sort of related to Carl's. I mean, I'm just looking at the elevation, and I've heard both the agent and the owner say that what they're proposing is better. And I'm just struggling a little bit with that. I get the sloped roof and why that's being done. I'm sort of just wondering if, building on what Carl is saying, if you're limited to the 6 meter as staff are recommending, does that make it less better? I mean, does that make it less functional? Does it make it less better? It just kind of looks like, you know, a 10-foot ceiling at one side seems a little excessive given the limitation of the 6 meter height bylaw.
Well, it provides a much more pleasant interior space, and I've been selling real estate in the city of Toronto since 1987, and I can tell you that if I go into a condo with an 8-foot ceiling versus a 9-foot ceiling, I go into a much nicer space. When I show a house that's got a 9-foot ceiling on the main floor versus an 8-foot ceiling on the main floor, the response from the clients I take through that house is far greater and more positive on the 9-foot ceiling than it is on the 8-foot ceiling. So we're trying to build the best building that we can. We are stewards of our property. We are here for a limited time. We want to leave something behind.
Okay,
Good.
thank you.
I
Anything else, Mr. Clay? Do you have another question? Otherwise, I'm going to go to the opposition. Or if
No, I think we should go proceed to hear from the opposition. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, do I have the owners of 266 Crawford on the line? Mr. Evans? Mrs. Evans?
Yes, I'm here. We're at 266 Crawford.
Hi.
I'm Angie.
Hi, Angie, are you speaking on behalf of Jack and Dilip Manucha?
Yes.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes. We're starting the clock now. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and the committee. And I listened to my neighbor, 264 Crawford, maligning me at the very beginning, saying that I object to everything they did. Just a quick referral to the previous application they did. When they moved in, the house was for 3 apartments, 2 tenants and the owner, which they removed and make it into a single unit for a family of 2. The reason I object to the balcony is that on each of the floor, when they built the balcony, both the balcony look directly into our rooms. The dividing corridor was only 3 feet wide, so you can see that a person on the balcony looking right into your window, and you can see that it has a huge effect on the privacy issue. It's nothing to do with the 1 foot width of the fence or the handle or anything. Just imagine you have your house, people who are 3 feet away, standing outside chatting or having function, and they look right into your rooms. So, and it's from the south side. So privacy was definitely affected, and that was the reason for the objection. With regards to the current proposal, the city has approved and allowed laneway building, which we do not have a choice. But the fact that 264 is on the south side and that they had decided to build this building, which actually exceeded even what the city has agreed in zoning. Based on my calculations, and I hope it's correct, if it is, but that's the best I can do based on the plans. By not having the soft space as per the plan, I calculated they added 260 square feet to each of the floor. And 260 square feet, I want people to imagine, a new condo in Toronto for the lowest, smallest is 450 square feet. By adding the 260 square feet extra on each floor, you can see that it is a significant size, even though it doesn't look like it. And also had reduced the soft landscape and make the area a lot more congested. The height as well is, they said that the height difference is not material. Again, I have to tell you, that if you can imagine a condo in a typical downtown area is only 8 high. The request, even with the regular, without the zoning variance, it is very high. We are talking about a building which is built like a solid wall. It's like a wall of Berlin, which is now 20 feet wall as far as we are concerned. And this wall is the complete length of our back garden. Our whole back garden is the whole width of the garage, and the garage at the moment exceeded the zoning rule for the new building, and it is facing the south, and already 3 or 4 feet of that part of my garden, we cannot grow anything. But now the flowers and all the trees that I planted for the 35 years I've been there, all the plants will be destroyed, and any additional height over and above the variance. The variance in height seems very little, but if you put your hand, it is at least 3 of your hand length height. And considering a wall of 20 feet, you just imagine you have a southern facing wall. Now it's from 10 feet is 20 feet, and they want even higher. So I have to say that the variances that are requested is not insignificant, depending on what you define as significance. Is significance based on the physical structure, or significance based on how it impacts us? And considering the homeowners all have relatively equal rights, we have been here for 35 years, and this application has added a lot of stress to us because the backyard is a place of refuge. And considering we're over 70 years old, and we had never thought that we have to face with this constraint. So can I show a picture of that I sent to you folks with a picture of the garden with a ladder on it? Could you pull that out? I just want to show you one of the photos I sent in to show you how much higher the existing one is. There's one photo. If you allow me to share it, I can share it on my side.
We're looking for the photo. You're at 5 minutes, so just give us a second to try to find the photo. And
it's the one with the ladder.
Okay. Okay, when did you send that in?
Oh, we sent it before the deadline. I've confirmed with the city.
Okay, when did you send it in? What day?
I think the deadline, on the date of the deadline before 4:30.
Okay, if you sent it in, did you find it?
It should be
Are
there.
they,
I
is it a
confirmed
pit,
with
is it,
Jay.
hang on, is it
I
a,
have it. It's page 211.
is
of the
it
agenda.
flowers? Is that it?
No, the one with the ladder. Yeah, these are the flowers, but there was another. I sent in 3 emails. So these plants will all be dead. Now this is a tree that our neighbors are. Okay, the next one. The one below, there's one with the ladder.
Okay.
Can you move it up, please? Okay. So this is the, oh, sorry.
Okay, you're at 6 minutes. I'm gonna have to wrap it up. So
No, but can you show the ladder first, because I can't see it?
it's right there.
Can you move it? Yeah, can you move it a little bit down? So this ladder is the height of the building that they are requesting. This existing one, and you can see how high it is. So any additional height will just aggravate the situation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Manusha, are you there? Hello?
I'm just.
Hi, are you?
Just here on standby.
Okay, great. You're at the same address. So, are you a tenant, sir, or are you part of the family?
Just tenant.
Okay. So, did you want to say anything before I move to the next opposition, or are you just listening in?
No, I'm just listening in.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Farewell, are you there?
Hi, Michael. I see you online. You're unmuted.
Mr. Farewell, don't touch the mute button. They're controlling it here. So we're going to unmute you again.
Okay, you're unmuted again.
Can you say something?
I'll try giving you a call at the phone number you've listed. Just give me a moment.
Okay, we're going to try to give you a call. Panel members, did you have any questions of the speaker, the last speaker? No? Okay, thank you. Mr. Farewell, if you can hear me, we're trying to call your phone. Cell phone? A cell phone, I think. Keep trying and we'll see. Panel members, do you have any questions of the agent? We're unable to reach the last speaker, who's at 268 for your information. Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yes, since we are waiting, I have a very minor question. If you go to the agent's application on the shadow study, the house height is indicated as 6.3, the smaller one. I think that's a subject property. I do not understand why it's 6.3. If they can live with 6.3, probably they can live with 6 meters. That's my question. Why is it 6.3?
Hello.
The
yes,
proposal
you know
is 6.5, right?
Yeah, we've asked for 6.5. You know what? That's an error on my part.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
The massing
I know.
model.
Just because we're waiting, I know that it's just a small difference, but I just want to point out that you were intended to have store the building.
That's a labeling error. The model is correct to the architectural submission. So, yeah.
All right.
And I'd also like to, if I can, quickly comment, the window configuration, it's because of the building code and the laneway restrictions, we're trying to maximize windows, but it is difficult facing the house and facing the laneway. So, it's challenging.
Okay. Panel members, we've made numerous attempts to connect to this person and we're unable to do so. I don't believe there's any other questions. Let's take it into committee. Any discussion?
Has the applicant had a rebuttal yet?
Oh, sorry? I thought it, did I not ask you? Mr. Netkin, did you have any other anything to add with respect to the Evans concerns, or is what you had said earlier speak to the concerns? Are you there, Mr. Netkin?
No, I'm asking for a rebuttal for the agent.
Yeah, I'm asking the agent if he has anything else to say. Sorry, so I thought you were gone. Mr. Netkin, is there anything that you wanted to add with respect to the concerns raised by Angie Evans, or did you address most of it in your original comments with respect to the past committee?
I believe I addressed it. I would say that I would say we're not asking for we're not asking for the excess roof height across the entire wall on the north or the south side, for that matter. And if you look at the rear yard setback, which we're asking for, and it was not contested, and the building width, which is not contested, when you combine all that stuff together, I believe that the way we've designed it reduces the impact overall. And can I pass it to Chander, please? He would also like to speak.
You usually only have one person for a rebuttal. You both had an opportunity to speak on the beginning.
So is there?
I can't, okay.
Yeah, is there anything else, Mr. Netkin, or that speaks to what was raised by the neighbor that did speak?
Like I said, I think Chander wanted to speak directly to the neighbor's concerns. So
I think most of it was already addressed by Mr. Chander regarding the tree, that they have the big tree, etc. So
yeah.
I think he covered most of it anyway.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you have to add then? Otherwise, we're going to take it into committee.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, panel members, any discussion?
Madam Chairman, I could start off on this one. I agree with the designer's decision about sloping the top floor, and I think his objectives were good, and I support them. I also support most of the application. I am, however, not dissuaded from the planning department's recommendation. It's very clear. They say in their report, the laneway suite as proposed is not appropriate in the context and will set a negative precedent for future development. Planning staff are of the opinion that the variances requested do not meet the intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. I'm inclined to agree with that. And also the height issue was the issue that the next door neighbor raised, and I thought raised reasonably well. Very clever idea to show us how it would appear by propping up a ladder against the building. So unless my colleagues have alternate concerns or questions, I'm prepared to put a motion on the floor.
Okay. Ms. Chan, did you want to say something? And Mr. Clay?
Yes, I would like to add to actually what Carl said. I agree mostly. And in the beginning, I was thinking why there is to be in terms of the being minor variances, and then it's just a little bit of a portion of the roof popped up. And then also I realized that the planning report, the intention of the laneway bylaw is actually is to keep it more, a little bit more because you're building it intensify the site, and I think that in the next door neighbors do have some kind of impact, and I think that the intent of the bylaw is to minimize this impact. And in the light of the neighbors' complaint and all, I do not think the height is such a minor variance. Meanwhile, we can see there's a lot of conditions, existing conditions that we can actually consider. For example, the reduction of the soft landscape and all, because a lot of sites are already existing. So we can actually understand why they cannot comply. But since this roof is actually new, and I think that just to keep good neighborhood and also with the intent of the laneway bylaw, I think maybe they have to live with the 6 meter. If we have any kind of motion, I will support this to approve, but with the refusal of number 4 and is it number 6 too?
Yes, 4 and 6.
Yeah.
Mr. Clay?
I'll just play in it just very, very quickly. We often see laneways that are looking for height variances, and in some cases they're legitimately required for technical or other reasons, but 6 is the limit. And in this spot, I was unconvinced by the agent's or the owner's explanation as to we need the extra height. It was just a marketable argument, which I don't think is reasonable justification for exceeding the height. I think they could form with the bylaw on the height quite easily if they wanted to. So I would support my colleague's comments as well.
Okay, Mr. Nipfel, so your motion then is to refuse variances number 4 and 6 as per the planning report.
That's correct.
Dated June 16th, condition number 2, forestry, and engineering conditions
Yes.
in the March 1st report.
That's
All right.
correct.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Ms. Chan? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that motion carries and the application is unanimously approved with those conditions and refusing variances 4 and 6. Okay, thank you, everyone. The next item is item number 5, which is 418 COXWELL Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a report from planning asking for a screening condition, and we have correspondence in opposition from 441 Rhodes Avenue. I'm not showing any, oh yeah, I'm showing a speaker, yeah? Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, hi, good morning.
Good morning. Can you please identify yourself for the record?
My name is Han. I'm the agent representing the owner of 418 Coxwell.
Okay, I do have the owner of 416 on the line in opposition, so we'll need you to do a presentation, no more than 5 minutes, and the clock starts now.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say regarding our application for the requested 6 variances, we have spoken with the city planner and would like to withdraw the variances number 5 and 6 as per their request. However, this does generate the parking variance, which is dictates that we require 1 minimum parking for dwelling. So we would like to request a 0 parking variance. The other 4 will remain the same unchanged, a pedestrian entrance in the front wall that leads to a secondary suite, the depths of 19.3 meters, whereas the allowed is 17 meters, as well as the FSI, so the floor space index of 0.82 versus the allowed 0.69. And then also regarding the auxiliary building in the rear. So this is an existing auxiliary building that sits about 10.9% of the lot coverage, where the allowed is the 5%. So our proposal right now, it's an addition towards the rear of the property. So the street view on the front will remain unchanged. We're keeping the existing height and existing width of the building. So there are no setbacks or height variances that's been requested. So regarding variance number 1, which is the entrance on the front wall, which leads to a secondary suite, this was at the recommendation of the zoning examiner. As we have the rear yard addition, which is going to be our primary suite because it will be a lot larger size than the existing building. So therefore, the planning examiner, when they reviewed the case, they recommended to switch that rather than having that as the secondary suite in the rear, to move it to the front. So basically, everything is being done on the property is towards the rear. So we would like to preserve as much of the physical characteristics of the street as possible. The existing building will remain intact and won't be affected. And then because it is semi-detached, there's no structural concerns. As like I mentioned, the existing building will remain as is without change.
Sir, are you proposing to add a variance? Because
Yeah.
you can't do that.
That was going to be my comment too. Do you need a 0? Are you going to need a variance for that 0 parking? Because if you'd have to come back with a separate application for it, or defer this one, because we would vote on the amended application, which is the removal of 5 and 6. But if you need a 0 parking variance, then we can't just add that randomly here. It has to be, formally submitted.
Correct, because we received the notice from the planner. So I was in contact with her basically last week when we received the comments. So we didn't have time to submit an official amendment to the application. So
right.
But we still have to give notice. We have to give proper notice under the Planning Act. So if you need a further variance, then you should be asking for a deferral.
If we do have the deferral, can we, are we able to set a precedent date as early as possible with the planner?
Well, it's up to like no more than 3 months, but the sooner you get, the revisions in, the sooner they can try to slot you in, but we can't give you any dates now, if that's what you're asking.
Because we would require, by the bylaws, to require zero parking if we do remove the variances as per their request. But like I said, when I spoke with the planner as well, it is a feature of the street, actually. The entire stretch of that COXWELL Road on the west side has parking on the front.
Okay, I understand that. I don't really want you to talk about the merits of whether or not, what you're asking for is okay, unless you want us to proceed with what's before us today. So either in its entirety or as amended, removing 5 and 6. But if you have to come back and get a zero parking variance, if you do remove 5 and 6, then as the Deputy Secretary stated, then we need to defer this item.
All right, is it possible that I can maybe just speak back to this case afterward? I speak with the client?
So you want me to hold it?
Yes, please, is it possible?
How long do you need?
5 minutes.
Okay.
We could do the next.
So we do have someone in opposition, so I'm going to go to them and ask them if they're okay with us holding it down, and then we'll just deal with.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question before he leaves?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to ask a question. If the fund, I noticed the fund parking is actually existing condition. So almost every house on that street has the fund parking. But I'm just thinking about if we take the case as it is, can they legalize the fund parking? Is there a possibility that they can do that?
Well, we would prefer, because like I said, most of the properties do have legal parking, but right now we're unable to justify the case as well. So,
okay, but that depends. Okay, but I think the issue first and foremost is the issue is, does the agent want to proceed with the application as is? Does he want to amend it and remove 5 and 6, knowing he needs a zero parking variance? So I mean the bylaws are
Can
there.
Can we proceed as is with the comments with the planner then?
If you want to proceed as is, we deal with it as it is before us, and then you would do your, I mean, I don't even know where we're at again now. We have one speaker, so I'll give you a few minutes again to state your case, and we just look at it as it is before us. But that's your decision. That's what I was getting at. We're wasting a lot of time here. So those are your decisions, not ours.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Let's proceed as is then. Thank you.
Okay.
So you're canceling the withdrawal of variances 5 and 6, correct?
Correct. That's right.
Okay. So let's start over then. So we're going to reset the clock. You have 5 minutes starting now, because I have one speaker in opposition. Okay, so you're speaking to the application as it is before us.
Okay, so as I said, we'll withdraw the initial variances 5 and 6, so we'll maintain those. So just going forward from where we left off, basically, our proposal takes into consideration for the rear yard addition. The proposal itself looks at the overall street existing buildings, so mainly in regards to number 392, 372, and 374 COXWELL, which is down the road, which also has a similar depths and similar massing. So this is just a little bit farther down on the street. The proposed floor depths, basically it's a lot less aggressive than what we're asking for, as considered the FSI in the area for the variances that's been requested and approved goes up to approximately an average of 0.95 and a depth of 20.5 meters. So there are about 31 cases that's on the committee records, which was approved above the 0.82 FSI. So this is a very common floor massing for the area. This is according to immediate streets like COXWELL Avenue, Rhodes Avenue, Craven Road, and Ashdale Avenue, which is along the same block. We have, so regarding the condition placed by the planner, which is the screening towards the north for the rear second floor platform, we are well in support of this, as well as we will also propose a screening towards the south side of the building as well. So this is on the second story balcony, that's where the south and north, we will have a privacy screening. So as we mentioned, we spoke as a planner, it is with their consent and their belief that the overall official plan amendment is regarding the healthy neighborhoods. So our overall proposal acknowledges that we are maintaining the existing street characteristics. We're not changing the physical form of the front. Everything else is being done towards the rear. So based on that, it is our belief that the general intent is being met. And then I do realize there was a opposition, like a letter at the end of rejection from number 441 Rhodes Avenue. I don't believe they are speaking today, but I just wanted to clarify that they mentioned on their letter that the coverage for the remaining green space coverage will be about 10%. I just want to say the proposed house, the total coverage after the extension is about 41%. So this is there is still considerable green space, even if we account the assembly building at 10.9. There's still about 41. This only covers about 50% of the property. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Panzarino, are you on the line?
Good morning.
Hi. Can you state your
How are
name? I'm good. I hope you're well too.
Good.
Can you state your name
Thank
and
you.
address for the record, please?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. It's Mike Panzarino calling. I am representing, or I own 416 COXWELL Avenue.
Okay, we're going to reset the clock. You have no more than 5 minutes, so go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just calling or wanted to participate. I have a few concerns about the maximum allowable depth of the addition is 17 meters, which I believe is very generous to begin with. And then adding a 40-foot, two-story extension onto this building will cause shadowing and lack of privacy in our yards. It also disturbs the sight lines and privacy. Overlooking is also a consideration into the yard, as I mentioned. Another concern would be drainage and natural filtration when we've got a building going down the side of a structure that goes 60 feet into the yard total. Secondly, we have maximum floor space proposal. They're asking for an additional 430 square feet, which I would not consider to be a minor and not permitted. I believe they can configure the building shorter to meet what they require as the bylaw states. Next look that we have here. They also have they have the 40-foot extension onto the building and an ancillary building, as he mentioned. The ancillary building is 16 feet long. This leaves us with a mere 27 feet of green space for this property. I believe that this would be a negative precedence if permitted. There's 6 variances to this property, which I feel are not minor in nature, and they can easily be met. They can easily meet the bylaws as required. Lastly, they mentioned the parking space. The parking space is very important also to the street. They cannot meet or have failed to meet the requirements of the bylaws to get an approved parking spot, which is very important also to allow access to this building. That's what I have.
Thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Panzarino. Mr. Zhu, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Can you please address the concerns raised?
Yeah, so just to clarify a couple, so the Azurli building at the back is a existing Azurli building that was present since the owners had purchased the property about 14 years ago. So when they purchased the property in 2007, this auxiliary building was already present. But because I believe the previous, or maybe the owner before that, built it without a permit, it didn't show up on the survey that we have on hand, which is from year 2000. The space, the clear space after the proposal, if you take a look at the site plan, there's about 27 feet of space left after the proposed addition, about 8.3 meters. We are keeping the existing setback for the building. We're actually setting it back a little bit more to the 4 feet versus the 3'9", which is the zoning bylaw for setbacks. Regarding the parking space, the property does use the existing parking space as is, and it has been used since basically the house has been built. Like I said, the overall street on the west side of COXWELL all have front parking spaces. The family requested this a larger home is because they have a six member family, and then the front, which hopefully they will use as rental income, which is also something that's completely in agreement with the area, as most of the houses are rental. Similar to number 416, I believe the client spoke with the previous tenants at 416. So the 416 is a fully tenanted house, which is properly leased. They both have a vehicle parking at the front. So it is considered a right-of-way, but it is also below the minimum requirement for right-of-way. So it's being used as a parking space on both sides by both houses. Regarding the stormwater management, majority of it will remain soft landscaping, which is grassed lands. We're only keeping one short pathway to the side entrance for the new addition. So I don't believe stormwater will be of concern.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions of the agent? Mr. Clay?
A couple. So you share a party wall with 420. Have you had any discussions with them about this proposal?
Yes, there will be our wall will be built along the property line. We do have a letter of support, form number 420, COXWELL. So they are in support of our proposal.
Is that in our package?
It was sent in because they were still we received it late from it, but we did send it in. I believe it is showing, but it's shown as a late submission.
So it wasn't in our package. I think it might have been might be on the AIC, but it wasn't in our package, Mr. Clay, I don't think.
And fair enough, as long as it is in there. I just looking at the side and the variance being requested for depth. You know, the addition kind of looks like almost 2 times the length of the existing building, and it just seems to me that, you know, wouldn't it have been possible to stay within the as of right? Applicant still had a fairly significant addition to your dwelling.
The actual house actually is a depth of 10.3 meters. So there is a old single-story addition towards the rear, which was badly built, that will be removed and built basically to a full 2-story. So we're actually proposing a depth farther, about 9 meters, as so from 10.3, adding 9 meters to the 19.3.
Any further questions? Ms. Valentini?
Just to kind of build upon what Mr. Clay said, when I looked at this, my first concern was the depth of the addition, especially when you look at the side elevations and you see just how large this addition is. I mean, it's I had made a note that the existing house is about 1,000 square feet. It's going to be over 2,600 square feet with the addition, just, you know, basically based on my calculations. But so I felt in looking at the location map, and we don't have the benefit of, you know, a survey showing all the adjacent lots, but it looks like it's going to be quite larger than anything else on this side of COXWELL. I know you said that the FSI, and so that in conjunction with the larger FSI, I felt this was going to be a very large addition. When you haven't given us any specifics as to, you know, you said there are 31 that are above, I think in FSI and depth, but I mean, a lot of that depends on where they're located exactly. Are they within, you know, how far they are? It also is, do both of those, all those properties have a depth and FSI variance? So there's a lot of factors involved. I felt this was on the larger side myself. I don't know if there's anything else you can say to satisfy those concerns that I have.
Mr. Niffel, did you have a question?
I agree with Ms. Valentina's concerns. I have those concerns and have had since I first reviewed the application. But just to clarify the other issue, which is parking, on drawing A00, A000, is the proposal that you would park in this driveway that exists? Is that the proposal we have before us?
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, and I gather that I find the planning department's report on this really odd. The wording that they've used is, just hold on one second for me. Parking spaces be located between the front main wall of the building and the front lot line do not represent the prevailing character of the streetscape. That's not my recollection. It seems to me virtually every property has front yard parking. Is that correct?
That's basically correct. Going all the way from the tracks down to Gerard, almost every house has one or some even two parking spaces at the front.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to make sure I got that right. Thanks.
Any further questions, panel members?
Did the agent have any comments on sort of the concerns about the size of the addition, or anything else to add, or no?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, on the street, I mean, the overall key plan doesn't show us much, but properties basically along COXWELL, like 620, 622, like I mentioned, just a little bit farther down, 392, 390, 372, all of these houses do have a similar depths as the proposal, which is approximately 19 meters. And in regards to the previous, as mentioned, was the 31 variances. They're just the adjacent streets. I mean, we do classify COXWELL as a primary, or as a main road versus the Rose Avenue, but they are all adjacent roads to the property.
Does I understand you to say 420 has the same depth? No, that can't be possible based on the.
No,
620. 620. That's a far ways away. Okay, thank you.
So like it's closer. There's the 390s and 370.
Do you know if 372 and 374, they look kind of deep also? Are they similar depths or not? Or do you know?
We took a consideration because we aren't able to review the property itself. So based on, you know, maps of online, everything for aerial views, it's about 19 meters. So which is what the judgment we used when we proposed this, which is of a similar depth.
Yeah, so I was looking between Fairford and the tracks. Like, do you know if any of those are similar to what you're proposing?
So the 392, 374, and 372 are similar to what we are proposing.
Okay, panel members, do you have any further questions? Okay, if not, we'll take it into committee. Any discussion? Ms. Chan.
I can start with some comments. I agree with Kyle about the planning report. I got a little bit confused too in terms that it's actually the prevailing character to have the front yard parking. But also, I want to address the depth of the building. In the absence of the opposition from the planning department, and also the dimension that the distance between the addition and the auxiliary building is 27 feet. I believe is equivalent to about 8.2 meter, which is like a lot bigger than the standard rear yard setback, which is 7.5. I do think that this lot can take in that extra depth, and I do have some concern about the size of the addition, but I think that it is an improvement of the current condition that is an undersized building. So I'm in support of that. I'm in support of that addition. And if there are any other comment, I'm waiting for other members to have some comments on this.
Okay, any other comments, planning or panel members?
Well, I'll weigh. I think we all had some initial concerns about the length and depth of this addition. It just seems, on the surface of it, it wouldn't be that hard to have within the depth permission without requesting an additional variance for length. But having said that, I'm just looking at a satellite view of the Rest Street, and the agent's correct. There do to be many dwellings with rear additions similar to what is being proposed here. So not that should necessarily sway us, but I was concerned also about the owner of the semi having concerns, and if there is a letter of support on record, then I'm less concerned about that.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, I'll take a motion. Okay, Ms. Chan?
Yeah, so I would like for to move for approval, and I do not think there are any there's no conditions. Are there any privacy screening?
Yeah, I have a note written down to put a condition in for screening, and I'm not sure if, I think that's because of something I read in an opposition letter.
It's in the planning department report.
I'm
It's
trying
the
to
second
find it.
condition in planning.
Yes.
It's in planning's recommendation.
Yeah, on the north edge of the rear second story balcony, yeah. I would like to impose that condition.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Okay, so motion's moved by Ms. Chan, seconded by Mr. Nipfel to attach the condition for screening only. And all in favor? Okay, the application has been approved with that condition. Okay, thank you. Item number 6. 371 Jones Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a previous decision affecting the property, presentation materials from Mr. Race, the agent. We have a planning doesn't appear to have any concerns, and I do have engineering conditions, and I believe that's it. Okay, can I have the agent please identify himself for the record?
Good morning, Craig Race, applicant and architect on the project.
Okay, panel members, we don't have any speakers listed. Do you need a presentation? No? Do you have any questions of the agent? Mr. CLAIR.
Yeah, I'll just ask the same question we've asked of both proponents. There's the height variances, maybe you could just give us a little bit of an explanation why it looks like you're a meter over.
Thank you, Member Clay. If the committee can pull up our design brief, we have some illustrations that indicate why that is the case. As you hopefully know, this is an addition to an existing laneway suite. So there is an established roof height that we are maintaining. However, we did work closely with community planning to pull back the north wall of the addition about 3 feet from the north lot line to ensure that our shadow impact is equivalent to that of a 6-meter as-of-right building form. You can see that blue shape on the site plan there. We've also included a shadow study to indicate the impact difference between the proposed height and an as-of-right proposal, which is effectively 0.
Okay, any other questions?
We also have noon and afternoon sun here. Just a little bit of background to understand why the existing structure is above the laneway suite height and allowance. This home was constructed in 2012, so it existed prior to the laneway suite policy being created, which is why it is the height that it is. It was originally designed to match an adjacent home so that it would fit optimally.
Okay, so just to confirm, so it's basically the same height, it's clearing on the same height as the existing structure, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Chan, you had a question?
Yes, he explained why it's just the intention is just to match the existing structure, but there's no really physically why you cannot live with 6 meters though, right?
So not exactly, because we're constructing the addition above an existing flat roof, there will actually be a step up to the added space on the second floor. So in order to get an adequate amount of ceiling height, we elected to maintain the overall building height. That way there's suitable space inside the home.
So you're adding mezzanine or I don't understand. I'm sorry, you missed me there.
It's not a mezzanine, but because of the existing roof structure, we have to put the second floor above. There will actually be 2 steps up from the existing second floor to the new proposed second floor. The next plan shows it there. And so we do lose some ceiling height going into the addition, so it will have a shorter ceiling than the existing second floor, but if we maintain the overall building height, it's still adequate for suitable ceiling height.
Oh, I see. So the new addition, the floor is higher than the existing one, because you want to keep the roof structure, the existing roof structure, and you just build on top of the existing structure.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
That's also why we match the depth of the existing home rather than shrinking it as well. Our new structure is going to span from perimeter wall to perimeter wall. Mm-hmm. So that allows us to avoid inserting columns or having to reinforce the existing roof structure and the like.
Mm-hmm. Now I understand.
In our review of planning, we came to this conclusion as the optimal balance between those structural requirements while still pulling back the north wall to be contextually sensitive.
Okay, any other questions, panel members?
No.
Sorry, trying to unmute. Mr. Race, anything from the neighbors on this one? I mean, this is quite a large laneway suite. I realize it wasn't a laneway suite at the time. It was approved as, another dwelling unit, I guess. But I'm looking at the location map and how this structure relates to the neighbors that are adjacent to it. Have any of the neighbors concerned about increasing the size of this, or any comments about that?
No, not that we've heard. We did a letter drop with the neighbors. They were very supportive of the project in its origin back in 2012. And especially because Jones is such a busy street, they're primarily renters along Jones. And behind the property on Volpe, those homeowners, this is actually filling in a bit of a gap in the streetscape on Volpe because the street jogs behind it. So it's only facing the side of someone's house who doesn't have any windows, and they've been supportive of the project.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. When I look at the location map, and I do know this area a bit, but it does, so basically the rear of the laneway suite doesn't abut any rear yards. Of the rear yards of neighbors behind on the other side of the lane. I mean, it does abut rear yards of the adjacent neighbors, but is that correct, the way I look at the map?
Yes, that's correct. There is a house across the lane from this property, but it's
56.
literally a blank sidewall of a house that's taller than this laneway suite.
Okay, thank you. It's an interesting location. Okay,
Ms. Chan?
I have one question.
Oh.
Sure.
Hang on, Carl, 1 second. Yim had her hand up, and then you're next.
Yeah, just to clarify, so the height variance does not really apply to the new part. You still need the height variance for the existing part anyway, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so, okay, that's why I want to make it clear that it's with the existing condition.
Okay, Carl, go ahead.
As a matter of fact, we're slightly reducing the overall building height because there's sort of an architectural feature wall that extends above the height we're proposing that will be demolished.
Okay, Carl, go ahead.
I really like this proposal, but I have a question, a very basic question about what a laneway suite is. The purpose of the application indicates that this is to take an existing house and to turn it into a laneway suite. If you look at the drawing that you have where you talk about the main wall angular plane, you've already got it labeled as an existing laneway suite. I guess I need clarification. Is this or is this not a laneway suite? And if it isn't, what makes it a laneway suite?
That's a good question, and that's a bit of a semantical issue. It was approved originally as a house behind the house in 2012, but for all intents and purposes, this is a laneway suite. It's attached on the same property as the main house. It gets all its services from the main house, and it's essentially a secondary unit to the property.
And it doesn't have any parking?
It does have parking. The site has 2 legal parking spaces, but it actually has room for 4 cars, and there's a fairly large side driveway.
Okay, and as I understood your answers, and thank you for them, it appears that the concern that was on the previous application about the height of a laneway suite, this committee doesn't want to create precedents for already altering the height. But you seem to have negotiated a compromise position with the planning department that's based in large part on existing conditions, and you're building off of existing conditions. Do I understand that correctly?
That is correct. We are maintaining the existing height, and we've sacrificed the last 3 feet of floor space on the second floor in order to ensure our massing and shadow impact is equivalent to that of an as-of-right height.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, I have one more question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Race, I thought you said that 56 Volpe, sorry, Carl, did I? Oh, okay. 56 Volpe doesn't have windows on this side, but it does. But I'm assuming where your addition's going to go will not extend as far back as those windows. Is that correct?
Allow me to just double check here on Google. I believe you're correct. The front wall of 56 Volpe is almost aligned with the north lot line of 371 Jones, so it is far back, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's how I thought it was configured, but then I was confusing myself. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for all the questions.
Any further questions, panel members? Okay, Mr. Race, we're ready to go into committee, and we have no more questions. We've read all the materials, including your presentation materials. Is there anything that wasn't covered here that you want to add to?
Just a fun bit of history. This laneway suite belongs to one of the founding members of Lanescape. And it was actually the creation of this house that led to the inception of Lanescape and their company working with planning and council to create the laneway housing bylaws. So the owner is acutely aware of the policy context this house is operating within. And we think this is a sensitive response to work with the existing structure, but also be respectful of the neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Panel members will take it into committee. Any comments?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, go ahead, Carl. Yeah.
Madam Chairman, unless anyone else has concerns that they wish to express, I think as the applicant just indicated, this is a sensitive solution. Working with an existing context and building from it, I think it's a very successful way of integrating laneway suite into an existing condition. I don't see there being any kind of negative implications, and I do appreciate the concern that the applicant shown in negotiating with the planning department to make sure that we're not setting a negative precedent here. Having said all that, I don't have any concerns with the application as it's presented to us, and subject to the clarifications that the questioning brought out. And I'd like to move approval subject to the development engineering conditions that are noted in the agenda.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Okay, motion to approve, moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Ms. Chan, including the June 9th engineering conditions. All in favor? Okay, your application's been unanimously approved with those conditions. Thank you. The next item is item number 7, 75 South Drive. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs and comparables from Mr. Lindy, the agent. We have email, actually we have Heritage asking for conditions in their June 9th report. Okay, do I have the agent on the line? Mr. Lindy?
Yes, good morning.
Hi, can you just identify yourself for the record, please?
My name is Stephen Lindy, L-I-N-D-Y, architect and agent of the proposal.
Okay, panel members, I don't have any speakers. Do you need a presentation? No? Do you have any questions of the agent? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, Mr. Lindy. So we don't need a presentation. We've read all the materials. Is there anything you want to add before we take it into committee?
No, that's fine.
Okay, panel members, let's take it into committee for a decision.
Chair, I'm happy to start on this one. I think this is a very straightforward application. There is a length and depth variance, but these are large lots. I think that can easily accommodate this addition. I thought it was sensitively designed. Unless my colleagues have any thoughts on this one, I'm happy to move a motion to approve up to the heritage conditions.
Okay, that's seconded by Ms. Valentini. Okay, motion to approve, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Ms. Valentini, including the heritage conditions in the June 9th report. All in favor? Your application's been approved. Thank you, sir. The next item is item number 8, 25 Baldwin Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from Mr. Weiss, the agent, an arborist report from Rob Shaw Lukowski, a consultant, a parking and loading study from Mayor Siphon, the consultant, planning rationale from Mark Sterling, consultant, servicing and stormwater management report from Husan Engineering and Management. We have email correspondence from transportation, and we have a staff report from community planning, which is asking to build plans. We have correspondence in opposition from 28 Darcy Street, and this person is a member of the Baldwin Village Community Association, as well as 58 Henry Street. That's the owner of 16 Baldwin, who's also a member of the Baldwin Village Community Association. And I'm showing 31 Baldwin wanting to speak in opposition, and 58 Henry in interest. Do you have them both? Okay, I'm going to start with having the agent identify himself for the record, please.
Yes, good morning. It's Mark Sterling. I'm the planner on the file.
So I'm going to ask you to do a presentation, no more than 5 minutes. Please, the clock starts now.
Okay, we had actually submitted a slide presentation. I don't know if it's possible to bring that up.
Yeah, we'll pull it up.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. So we'll just start with that first slide. So as I mentioned, I'm the planning consultant for this project. I'd just like to note that the application before you was preceded by a site plan approval application for the project, and we have received the first round of city SPA comments. The image on the screen in front of you is an image from the 1970s when this property was part of the, let's say, renaissance of the Baldwin Street commercial area in which it's situated. And you can see the yellow Ford truck store, which played a key part in the emergence of this unique community. The application that's before you is being put forward by a member of the Silverstein family, who's owned this property since the early part of the 20th century. And this is the site of their original bakery. If you could go to the next slide. And I'm sure you've reviewed the file in detail, so you know where the property is, but we've highlighted it on the site plan here in red. And maybe if you can go to the next slide. You can see the zoning context for it is in a mixed-use area in the area, and you can see the area to the south is neighborhoods in the official plan, and a residential zone in the zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. So I'll go briefly through these because you have the full set of plans in front of you. This is a view looking sort of southeast towards the proposed project, and you can see the existing facade of 25 Baldwin Street is there in the foreground, and you can see that the proposed addition of the third and fourth floors set back from that facade by more than 4 meters. Go to the next slide, please. And this is a view looking in the opposite direction. Again, you can see the setback area. And what you see at the very top there is a rooftop access feature that allows us to get, allows the residents in the building to get up to the common rooftop amenity areas, which are themselves set back from the parapet of the 4th floor of the proposed building. Next slide, please. And I'll just very quickly run you through the plans. You can see the ground floor where there's a retail commercial use proposed, and you can see a proposed parking space off the laneway to the rear, as well as a garbage storage area that's fully enclosed. And you can see the stairs and the elevator that will serve the office and residential uses that are proposed on the upper levels. Can you go to the next slide, please? You can see one of the typical floor levels of the residential uses. So you can see the rooftop terrace on the 2nd floor or 3rd floor below. This is actually the 4th floor plan. And you can see that there are 2 units per floor. They face generally north and south, and they're set back from the property lines. And you can see there's also a small light well feature in the middle of the building that allows for some clear story and separated windows to give light into bedroom units that are deep in the plan. Next slide, please. I mentioned the roof. On the rooftop, there's a stair access and elevator access to the roof, where there are 2 common amenity spaces located on the north and the south side of the project. And you can see that they're surrounded by an area of green roof and planting. And they have guards as well. So they're set well back from the edges of the upper part of the 4th floor roof. Next slide, please. And this is just a cross section showing the relationship of the various uses to one another. I mentioned there's an office use, a provide a plan for that, but that's proposed on the second floor. So we have 2 floors of units, 1 floor of office, 1 floor of retail. And what you're seeing at the back on the right-hand side is the interior parking space. That's that sort of recess cut back. And you can see on this plan that the 4th floor has been stepped back from the rear property line along the laneway to the south. Next, please. This is a kind of material schedule. It just gives a sense of how the building materials are going to reflect the existing facade materials. I should note that this is a building that's not listed or designated as a heritage structure. However, the proposed development here will demolish and completely replicate the existing facade. As
Mr. Sterling, you're at 5.5 minutes. Can you please wrap up?
I can wrap up because the very last slide I have is really just a summary of the variances, and I would say the only comments I would make is that the parking variance that's in the list has been supported by a parking study that's been submitted, and so far we've received no specific comments from the review of that by the authorities. And you'll note that in the
okay, I'm really sorry, but you're now over 6 minutes, so I'm going to have to cut you off. But we'll have you back to rebut the opposition anyway. Panel members, do you want to hold your questions till after the opposition speaks? All right, Mr. Traini, are you on the line?
Good morning.
Hi. If
Can you hear me?
Sorry?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you please identify yourself for the record?
Okay. My name is George Trainee. I'm a resident of Henry Street, number 58 Henry Street, for 40 years, and I also own a small commercial residential building across the street for 25 Baldwin. My building is 16 Baldwin.
Okay, sir, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
I sent a written notice in, and I'm going to address the 2 concerns I have with this application. When you go through the slides that the previous applicant presented, my concern is this 5th floor amenity building and space. The existing structures on Baldwin Street that are in line with this building is the hydro block building on the north side of Baldwin and runs between Baldwin and Cecil. It's a 4-story building, so I have no problem with the addition of creating a 4-story building on this location. So my concern is this 5th floor outdoor amenity structure in space, and that's brought forward under bylaw 569-2013, and also the overall height and the setback required for that purpose. And the second item is the rear lot line. Rear laneways in our neighborhood have become very important because when a larger structure is built, and there is a large property at the end of this laneway that is occupied by a religious group, and an issue we're having presently on Henry Street behind our place is that these laneways originally were designed for horse and buggy and storage for these horses and buggies, and as we get increased development, there's increased need for these laneways to provide the egress to all development, including this particular one. So, and I've noted in my notes that this back 5-foot setback plus the 5.5 would allow a 25-foot by 25-foot open area at the back of this building that I would hope would not only open up the back laneway, but it would also be very important during the construction of this project. There's absolutely nowhere other than public property to stage the loading and unloading that's required for this building. Overall, I'm in support of the building. I think we need additional residents, and having second floor office space brings employment into the neighborhood, and retail on the first floor. So other than if we removed the 5th floor outdoor amenity structure and brought the building in from the back to allow the setback for the laneway, I would be in favor of this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker, panel members? Okay, seeing none, do I have the next speaker on the line? Hi, I'm not sure if I have Harvey or Barbara, or both.
You have Harvey.
Okay, are you going to be doing the speaking, sir?
Yes.
Okay, can you just identify yourself, their full name and your address for the record, please?
My name is Harvey Knopman, and I'm the owner of 31 Baldwin Street.
Okay, we're starting the clock now. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't think I will take 5 minutes, but my main concern is that the flavor of the Baldwin Village would be destroyed by building a 4-story building or 5-story building. Also, there's so many variances there that it doesn't become minor variances, and most of it becomes a major variance. That's my main concern.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions of the speaker? Okay. Mr. Sterling, are you there?
Sorry, yes I am.
Okay, can you address the issues that were raised about the number of variances, the massing, the laneway issues that have been brought up?
Yeah, so certainly there are variances for height and density, and those are fairly clear. With regard to the setback on the rear, you'll see in the comments and letters that you've got from the city, there was a concern raised at about the configuration of the rear of the building in the original site plan application. That was subsequently addressed through a revised application, which is in the form that the current minor variance application is before you, which shows a step back at the 4th floor, as I was mentioning before. That has been discussed directly with planning, and we've received comments from the local planner that to the effect that the step back that's being shown there, it's 2.7 meters above the 3rd floor, meets as far as they're concerned, meets the intent of the kind of angular plane and setback requirements that would typically apply in that area, for which we've sought variances. The rooftop amenity structure is really just a staircase and the elevator arriving at the roof to provide access to amenity spaces. As I mentioned, they're set back substantially from the edge of the parapet, surrounded by a kind of planted area and a green roof system. So, in my opinion, those features will actually allow those to be occupied in a way that doesn't impact the privacy of anybody, particularly to the south on the other side of the laneway. We heard a little bit about the number of variances. I mean, several of these variances are related to the kinds of setbacks that we're providing from the face of the existing building onto Baldwin Street. For instance, there's the bylaw requires a certain amount of the front face of the building to be very close to the street, but because we have a substantial step back of the upper levels, we fall foul of a couple of variances in that regard. I think there was a question about the garbage handling and loading. I mean, right now, all of that takes place from all of the uses on this street in the laneway itself. The proposal actually includes a garbage storage area within the volume of the building in order to keep that stored in a way that's clean and odor-free, and there's actually an improvement on the existing condition, both on the subject property but also on the properties along the laneway. I think that covers most of the comments, unless there's some other questions from the committee.
Yeah, let me ask. Panel members, do you have any questions for Mr. Sterling? Okay, Mr. Niffel, and then Mr. Clay, and then Ms. Chan.
Just building very briefly on, and I'm sorry, I've forgotten which of the opposition people raised this, but it was the importance of the rear lane to provide adequate servicing to properties like this. If you look at your ground floor plan, which I think is probably the best drawing to refer to, it appears that your building is slightly further set back from the laneway edge than the adjacent property. First of all, could you clarify that that's correct?
Yes.
And then secondly, when you actually have deliveries and garbage collection, how physically does that work? All the garbage that's stored there needs to then be brought out to the lane, and
yes,
a delivery truck also has to stop in the lane, which presumably blocks the lane. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, and that's essentially how the majority of the units along that laneway operate. You can see to the west on this drawing, at the bottom of the plan, you can see the adjacent building is also fully built out to that edge, as is the existing building on the subject property now. There is a...
So the only way that that could be changed would be, in fact, if the garbage truck was to pull into where the one parking space is, and that probably isn't possible because of headroom, and it would be difficult for you to reserve that space for service vehicles because somebody presumably come along and park in there. I don't see that there's a correction you could make, and even if you set back the ground floor further from the laneway, I don't see a solution to the problem. I think it's perhaps one of the problems that goes with dense urban development, and I'm scratching my head and I don't see a way in which your proposal could have made it better than you have. You've improved, as I see, on the existing condition, but I don't think there's much else you can do. Would you like to respond to that?
Yes, and that's essentially the conclusion that our transportation and parking and loading study came to as well, was that this was as appropriate a solution to the question of how to deal with these things on the laneway as we could practically offer, given the size of the site, which is a typical size on there. There, as you say, there's no room to maneuver garbage trucks anywhere in that laneway, frankly, other than in the fashion that you've described.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Clay.
Chair, it is a very unique and unusual and attractive streetscape along there, as I think everyone would agree. And I don't think this would be the first four-story structure either on the street or in the neighborhood. But I am wondering a little bit about if the parapet wasn't, I mean, is that what's triggering the height variance? Is like, would the 4 stories within the permissions?
No, we're asking for additional height to get the the third and fourth floors, actually.
Right. So
not just the parapet or the rooftop access piece by themselves.
Right. So the height variance, right, it is relatively small, but there are other 4 stories in that area. Is that correct?
Most of the buildings right now are in their original condition, which is they're mostly 2-story buildings. There is an application that's under review for a 3-story building nearby, and as one of the other speakers mentioned, there is a 4-story building around the corner, which is he referred to as the Hydro Block, which is a multi-unit residential project from the 1980s or 1970s, probably. So there's a mixture of heights in the area.
So this would be the 4/5-story structure along
on this stretch of Baldwin, yes, I think it would be.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Chan?
Unmute. Okay. My first question is on your roof plan, either on the slide number 9 or on drawing A3.5. The amenity roofs space, there's the hatch area is the so-called green roof. The reason why I ask is very important that I think Baldwin Street, as you saw in your presentation, that is a very, very unique pedestrian commercial mixed restaurant area, and it's a very unique neighborhood in our city. And the reason why I ask is that there's no dimension, as the setback to me is very, very important as to preserve this kind of unique character for the more pedestrian friendly on the street. So if it's a setback, I would like to have a dimension, and then we can tie it to the condition, because the green roof, for privacy, for overlook issues, I want to make sure there's a adequate setback, but you do not provide a dimension. You know, the hatch area, I look, there's no dimension. It's only you dimension the building itself. So is it a 1 meter setback all around at a minimum?
You know, you're right. There isn't a dimension there. I'm just going to see if I can get some information for you on that. But I would say it's at least a meter for sure.
I would like to know that. Yeah, that's my first question. I have another one.
My client is listening to this right now. I'm sure he's going to tell me in a second by an email. I'll get you that.
Okay, can you ask your second question in the meantime, Ms. Chan, please?
Yeah, the second question is regarding to the setback variance number 11. And on your drawing 5, I believe it's 5.0 and 5.1. And you have indicated the angular plane. I believe that if you draw it at 45 degree and also 7.5 meter height, is almost the fourth and the third floor will be penetrating in your angular plane. At the moment, you're drawing it at 38 degree. It's not a 45 degree, so it does not give us a benefit of knowing how much it actually penetrates in the angular plane. The reason why I'm a big concern is that I'd like to know whether it will affect the property on Darcy. Although you always step back, but it doesn't have a clear story or tell the clear condition, because your drawing does not indicate the 45 degree angle.
Right. Okay. So maybe I'll answer both your questions. I have heard back from one of my clients or from their representatives. The setback is actually 1.2 meters around the parapet, and I guess just to clarify, that would put it on the north facing the street. It's actually 5.3 meters back from the street.
I realize it.
So that's one.
Thank you.
You're right about the angular plane. We have had conversations with the local planner, Mladen Kucic, regarding the angular plane. And we indicated that this was what we were going to be proposing. And he's indicated that planning is satisfied that, as shown, even though it's not a 45-degree angular plane, that it meets the intent of that particular requirement particularly in terms of privacy and overlook relative to anybody who might be on the south side of the laneway, because obviously there's no shadow impact from this, right? So that's the indication that we have from planning in an email from Mr. Kucic.
Well, my question is to our benefit. When we read the drawings, it doesn't indicate how much is actually penetrating, because we do not see the 45-degree angle anyway, right?
Right. No, you're right. You're right there. That is something that might have made it a little clearer. We didn't include that because we have had these discussions through the site plan approval discussions we've been having with planning, and they indicated that this was an appropriate condition from their perspective. So I apologize if there's any lack of clarity there.
Any further questions, panel members? Okay, let's take it into committee. Any comments?
I can jump in with my comments, and I just say this is a very unique site, because the whole neighborhood is why it's so unique is that there are not too many neighborhoods still kept like that, friendly for pedestrians. And Queen Street, the attractive about Queen Street is that it's very pedestrian friendly. And I just will stress that, and I almost feel that this is too much for committee adjustment to consider with the number of variances and the degree of increase. But since I'm a bit confident that they actually have applied, subject to SPA, site plan approval, and I think a lot of the issue probably will be worked out with the planning department. And I'm okay with that, but I just wish that I would like to also, if I'm waiting for other people's comment, but the rooftop amenity setback, I would like to impose that or substantially according to the drawings. Yep. Okay.
Anyone else like to weigh in? Mr. Niffel? You're on mute, I think. Can't hear you.
Is that better?
Yep. Go ahead.
I think it's a very complex application. I think it's well thought out and well considered. I have a lot of questions about details, but they're all going to be taken care of through the site plan control application, and I'm not going to raise them here. I'm all confidence that that will be taken care of. There are a lot of variances, but who would guess that this kind of proposal would come before us? And therefore, I think that's what we're here for, is to look at proposals that couldn't have been predicted, but which still provide for community assets. And I think this is a community asset. I support the application. I would agree with Yin if we could get the additional dimension, that would be helpful. I'd also like to add, on top of everything else that they've done something that is currently becoming a new issue among architects, and one that has been embraced here, and that is they've included bird-friendly glazing, which is something that we need to consider more in this city. Too many of our high glazed buildings are killing birds unnecessarily, and this one is attempting to address that. So I support the application subject to the planning condition, which I agree with, that it be developed substantially in accordance with the drawings that are before us.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Clay?
I'll just very quickly, I think, I first saw this application, I was initially concerned just about the streetscape and the look and feel of a very popular and unique strip adjacent to Baldwin Street, and we've all been there, and it is very quaint. And I was concerned about a 5-story dwelling being constructed, or not dwelling, but a structure being constructed might either interrupt or somehow impact that visual streetscape. But I see agent and the applicant have put forward a really thoughtful application. The stepping back of the higher, I think, mitigates a little bit of that concern. The facade that they're proposing seems to be not terribly inconsistent, although new, with the nature of the street. It is a lot of variances, but I think in combination they seem to work, and I am heartened, as others been, by the amount of work that the owner and applicant have put in with city planning to address some of those concerns. I think that gives me a little bit of comfort that the parameters within which they're working have been appropriately considered. So at discussion, I think I'm satisfied with the proposal. I think I can support it as well.
Okay, Ms. Chen, did you want to move a motion? Can't hear you.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I'd like to move for approval, subject to the planning condition that the building will be built substantially in accordance with the drawings. And also the second condition is to have 1.2 meter setback of the amenity area from the fourth floor terrace, a minimum 1.2 meter. And are there any other conditions? Any?
No. Okay, do I have a
Yes.
a seconder for that motion, Mr. Niffel? Okay, so motion to approve, including the condition in the June 9th planning report, as well as a condition for a minimum 1.2 meter setback from the amenity space. Moved by Ms. Chan, seconded by Mr. Niffel. All in favor? Okay, the application's been approved with those conditions. Okay, panel members, I'd like to do item number 9 and then maybe take a 5-minute break if that's okay with you guys. All right, so item number 9 is 7 Draper Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a covering letter from Jamie Cameron, the agent. We have a report from Heritage asking for a condition. Correspondence in opposition from number 28 Draper. I believe they had concerns surrounding heritage matters. I don't have any speakers listed. Is that correct? Okay, so can I have the agent please identify himself for the record?
My name is Jamie Cameron.
Okay, panel members, do you need what happened? Hang on, we're back. Okay, do you need a presentation? Do you have any questions for the agent? Okay, Mr. Cameron, we've read all the materials and we don't have any questions. We don't need a presentation. We're ready to go into committee. Is there anything you'd like to add that was not part of the submissions?
Nope.
Okay, let's take it into committee, panel members. Mr. Niffel, I don't know who had their hand up first. It was like the same time.
Madam Chairman, I think this is a very straightforward application with an extremely minor request for variance. And subject to the heritage standard condition that we have before us, I don't see that there's any negative implications to this application on the community. Unless my colleagues have any other questions, I'd be prepared to move a motion of approval.
Alrighty. So you heard the motion moved by Mr. Niffel. Do I have a seconder? Ms. Valentini?
Subject to the heritage condition,
Yeah.
Did you already mention that?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry, I'll second.
He did, yeah.
He did. Okay, all in favor? The application's been unanimously approved. So the committee's gonna take a 5-minute break and we'll be back.
Nancy?
Yeah, sorry, my mic was
I
off.
have a question for item 8. There was a second condition of a setback of 1.2 meters from the amenity space, but a setback from what?
From the street, I believe, or from the wall. Maybe Yim, are you there?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. No, from the edge of from the outside face of the building.
Okay.
Yeah, exterior face of the building. Yeah, or the parapet.
I think it's drawn like that. It's just that the measurements
No
not
dimension.
on
Yeah,
the plan.
because there's no dimension. They can just say 2 feet or something, right? Yeah.
So is this in the rear yard?
No, it's on the rooftop.
On the roof.
Oh, on the rooftop.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The front.
Yeah, all around the rooftop. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we're not live, are we? Okay, panel members, are you all there? We're ready to go. We're going to go to item number 11. And I do know that the agent for number 10 is on the line, and we were going to hold it till the end, but we're still missing a couple of the opposition, so we're going to try to get a hold of them, and if we do, then I'll just slot it in after this item. Okay, is Lisa online? Yep, okay. Okay, panel members, we're going to item 11, 802 St. Clair Avenue West. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a previous committee decision that affects the subject property, planning rationale from the applicant, and we have email correspondence from community planning, as well as transportation services. And I'm just looking here, I don't show any conditions from any of the departments. Okay, can the agent, are you on the line? If so, can you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes, I am. It's Michael Barton. I am the authorized agent and the applicant on the file.
Okay, Mr. Barton, I do have someone listed to speak. I'm just going to ask them if they're in opposition to see whether or not we need you to do a presentation. Ms. L'Esperance, are you there?
Hi, Kim. Are you there? Can you unmute yourself? I'll give you a call to the phone number you provided, because we can't hear you.
I can't hear.
Hi, are you opposed to this application? Hello? Kim? Okay. Sorry? Really?
Madam Chair, sorry, if I just might ask a question. I didn't miss any presentation, right? You're just
No,
trying to get.
no,
Thank
no.
you. I heard the introduction of the, okay, thank you.
No, I'm just trying to determine whether or not it's opposition or just wanted to listen in. But we're having network issues, FYI, so we're trying to phone the individual now. Okay, while we're doing that, are you still there, Mr. Barton?
Yes, I'm here.
Panel members, do you have any questions for Mr. Barton while we're waiting? Mr. Niffel?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Barton, there's three, I don't know if you've got everything we have, but we have three correspondences from Transportation Services. And in one of them, they say they don't have an objection, but that's with regard to parking. There is the request to provide for a 1.67 meter lane widening, and is there a drawing that you've submitted to us that shows that lane widening? Because I think we need to capture that in any decision that might be granted.
Yes, so I think it's just a little bit of background here. So the application came before you in December for this matter, and that was a request at the time from transportation that we provide that widening. So this,
and that was the reason it was deferred, right?
It was actually
for that issue.
It was denied actually because of what would have happened is there would have been additional variances required as well. So the application was denied. We came back with a new application, included that widening, and then that's the reason why the numbers have changed. Is that the lot size and depth are technically smaller, but the building itself is exactly the same as it was under the previous application. So yes, we have included that widening in the application.
Which drawing does it show on?
Okay, so allow me to pull it up. So what you will see, it's coming up here. So what you can see is, and I'll just wait for the one to come up. So we should have one that shows it in the rear, as similar to where we have part 1 and part 2 on the neighboring properties. That's exactly what we would be dedicated. So those widenings have been provided under previous applications. There should be a drawing that you have on file that shows it, because that was where we based.
Page 612 of our agenda, Carl. There's a drawing that shows that.
It is a little confusing because, yes, there you are. Yeah.
Site plan, yeah.
So that's what our variances
are. That's further down, okay.
Yeah.
Did you get it? Okay.
Okay, and that's further, that's not the original site plan, that's a subsequent site plan, right?
That's the current one before you, yes.
Okay, I remember I saw it when I reviewed your application, but I couldn't find it this time round. Okay, if we were to refer to this drawing, is it just your site plan drawing, or is it site plan drawing dated a particular date? Because I think we either need to talk about the condition or call up this drawing.
My understanding would be is that the previous drawings were part of a different application. They have a different application number. So I think they were provided to you for reference, but this would be the site plan that corresponds to the current application. So I do believe that's the status. So if you're referring to the site plan, it would be this one.
Okay, thank you.
It's not dated March 2020 now that
Yeah,
I look
it's-
at it. So
Yeah,
maybe
it's the previous
too old?
one, yeah.
Oh, so, okay. I
don't
referring to the
think
wrong
that
one then.
if you go to plans, the current site plan that we've got doesn't show that widening. And the one that shows the widening is, it must be previous.
Is there a date on it? If the staff can bring it up again and we can just tie it to that one if you like. It says March 20.
It's like both of them are dated
Okay,
March
that's
2020.
That's
Yeah,
not the
this
one.
one here that you just had on screen is the one that doesn't show it.
Right.
And then the one that does show it, I think, is maybe the prior one.
Yeah.
They both have the same day and they're both labeled Scheme A. So maybe if you're tying it to the plans, you can say site plan indicating lane widening.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks a lot.
Okay, do we have, okay, we've got the person on the line now. Hi, Kim, are you there?
Your recording has reached maximum length. If you
Okay, I guess not.
Hi, Kim. I've unmuted you. Can you try speaking?
Kim, are you there?
Oh, yes, I am here.
Great. Are you listening in, or did you have opposition comments you would like to
I'm sorry, I'm just listening in, and it's for item number 11.
Right, and that's the one we're on, so I just wanted to confirm whether or not you were speaking in opposition. So you're just wanting to listen in. Is that correct?
Just wanted to be informed, correct.
Okay, great. Okay, panel members, I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have any further questions for Mr. Barton on this item? No? Okay, Mr. Barton, the panel members, we've read all the materials. We're ready to go into committee. Is there anything you want to add before we do so that wasn't part of the submissions?
I would just make a note that I was happy to see that we were able to get community planning and transportation staff on board. That was our key concern with providing the widening along the laneway. So I'm happy to see that they have no concerns with the application moving forward.
Okay. Panel members, let's take it into committee. Any comments?
I'm ready to move for approval, since there's no comment and no objection from transportation and the and planning department. And I will put in the conditions that tie to the site plan indicating the laneway widening by 1.67 meter. And that's the only condition, I guess.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve, including tying it to the site plan submitted that shows the laneway widening. Do I have moved by Ms. Chan? Do I have a seconder? Mr. Niffel? Everyone all in favor? Okay, the application's been approved with that condition. Okay, now do we have everyone for number 10 or not?
I can't connect to the second last one, but I connected and I dropped and might be a voicemail. I tried
Okay,
then.
all right. So we're ready, we're gonna go to number 10, which is 357 Euclid Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have planning rationale from the applicant. We have email correspondence from Transportation Engineering, and they don't have any concerns. We have received correspondence in opposition from 353, 356, 351, 355, 348, 354, 363, 358, 354, 352, and 351 Euclid Avenue. And I'm showing 4 speakers. One of them we've lost, but we're going to continue to try and get a hold of. In the meantime, can I have the agent please identify himself for the record?
David Eckler from Area Architects.
Okay, sir, I need you to do a presentation, no more than 5 minutes, and we're going to start the clock now.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of Committee of Adjustment. This will be a verbal presentation, but you all should have the package of drawings and our planning reasons as well. Just to start with, I noticed that a lot of the objection letters have to do with complaints related to the property management, and what I can say related to that the property has been vacant for 2 years because they essentially there were tenants there that were not, how should I put it, compatible with the neighborhood. It's a family neighborhood, and so the landlord is wanting to renovate the building and create the type of affordable rental housing that is also upgraded to a quality that will get a better and more stable and quality series of tenants. That will also make sure that some of the complaints about both the tenants, and I think there were some complaints about snow cleaning and so forth, will be dealt with. In terms of the actual variances to the bylaw, the floor area one is really a question of the fact that what the landlord is proposing is to create more GFA. The basement was unused for residential, and it's really because of increasing the overall GFA by underpinning in the basement and creating more rental units that ends up creating the situation where what is designated as the primary unit according to the bylaw ends up being less than the 55% that it's supposed to be, or alternatively the additional units are greater than 45% of the total GFA. So this is really a matter of creating more affordable rental housing within the envelope of the building. The envelope of the building will not change in terms of being added onto and so forth, which brings us to the other variance, which is exterior alterations. These will be in the form of simply windows in the bay window facing the street, but hardly noticeable because they would be in a light well below the porch, and they would have almost no visual impact on the street. And the reason, of course, is to obtain the minimal, the minimum window area that's required under the OPC. Lastly, the point about the parking. There are currently 2 existing spaces. Even when there were tenants in the building before, they were previously, these parking spaces were unused. It is well serviced by transit. It's local. It has many local mobility options, and it is in the center of the downtown. And really, in conclusion, this is the kind of, it's not even missing middle. It's lower intensity than missing middle development that the city and lots of observers of the affordable housing issue call for. This is within the existing house structure without any additions, creating the kind of rental housing that's desperately needed in our city. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Panel members, can you hold your questions till after the opposition speaks? Okay. All right. Do I have Mr. Barkley on the line?
You do.
Alrighty. Can you identify yourself, name and address for the record, please?
David Barkley, 357 Euclid Avenue.
Okay, we're going to reset the clock, and you have 5 minutes starting now.
Great. Just in response to the agent's points, there was a misrepresentation that the previous tenants were problematic. One of them had been there for 4 or 5 years and was a quality tenant, at least from a neighbor's perspective. I think that if you were to talk to them, there wasn't a problem with them, it was a problem with the landlord. Secondly, there was a mention that somehow through having this development, there wouldn't be a problem, or it would address the problem of snow shoveling, 4 feet deep garden, weeds, that somehow the tenants will be responsible for this, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the landlord that's responsible for that. Really what this comes down to is usage, and a 60% increase in, I guess, livable space is not a minor variance in my mind. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the speaker? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Gideon? Yeah.
Can you hear
Sorry, sorry, Danielle.
Yes, can you hear me now?
I can. Can you just identify yourself for the record, please?
Yep. Danielle Gideon, I'm at 353 Euclid, and I'm just reiterating what my letter said and the fact that, yes, going from 2 apartments in that house to 5 seems not like a minor variance, and there were problems not from the tenant's point of view, but from the landlord's point of view. She wasn't handling the property properly, and as I understand it, the tenants even had to get the fire marshal in because she wasn't giving them apartments that were actually safe. So then for this same land person or landlord to make 5 apartments instead of 2 that she couldn't handle already seems crazy to me. So that's my concern.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any questions of the speaker? Seeing none. Do you have Mr. Smith?
No, I tried again.
Okay, Mr. Newgren?
Hello.
Hi, can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Yeah, it's Todd Newgren, 361 Euclid.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll just expand upon what Danielle and David said. I've actually lived on the street within 2 houses of that for the last 21 years, so I've noticed a strong change in how the street has been portrayed. I'll also say that getting one of these houses that's 19 feet wide by the 140 lots that we're on to actually have 5 rental units in it, I've never seen one of those down here, and it would be pretty horrible. I'm strongly in favor of creating density for the city, but much better density could be created having that as 2 or 3 apartments with more people living in them instead of something that is basically a rooming house. In regard to the landlord, I have met her on occasions before. I've asked her for her phone number because there's been problems with like rotting garbage staying out front, trees not being trimmed. She's refused to give me her phone number. The last tenants that were there were probably the best batch that we've ever had. They did call the fire department because there was a bunch of violations, and that ultimately led to them being evicted out of the property. The landlord had told them that she was taking it back into her family and had intentions on living there. Shortly after that, COVID hit and nothing's been done. And all of a sudden we're seeing that we want a 60% increase and want to create a rooming house just slightly down the street. In regards to parking as well, it is horrible down here. I am fortunate enough to have 3 parking spots off the back of my house, which I rent out for in excess of $150 a month. So that kind of leads to be, and that's actually below the going rate for what parking is down here. We could actually push 2.25 if we wanted to, but I think that is way too much. Other things I would say about the landlord, the previous people she evicted before, she kind of comes in, the cleaning lady swears, they throw out 60 bags of garbage onto the street. It's just a churn and burn. This is not somebody who contributes to the neighborhood any means. And having her bring in 5 more apartments down here I am strongly opposed to it. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. I just want to remind the speakers that this committee only deals with planning variances that are before us. A lot of the issues being mentioned are bylaw violations and fire code and things that we have no jurisdiction over, but we do understand your concerns. Panel members, do you have any questions of the last speaker? Seeing none. Mr. Eckler?
Yes.
Can you please speak to the issues raised, in particular any of the planning issues related to the number of units?
Well, I just reiterate, these types of houses in the annex, in the ward, historically did occupy these kinds of number of units. Some, yes, as rooming houses. This is not a rooming house. So first of all, that should be, that's a strong objection to that terminology. A rooming house, because we have worked on rooming houses, do not have their own, all the spaces that one normally gets in an apartment. Kitchen, dining, living, bedroom. These are all at least 1 bedroom units, and one of them a 2-bedroom unit. So, you know, they're not even bachelors, they're more generous than that. And as far as the complaints of the tenants, I actually met Mr. Barkley on site, and he told me he had a concern about a previous tenant who was smoking marijuana even before the laws changed, and had concern about the tenants in the building. Yes, we've heard complaints about the landlord and their management, but again, those are not planning issues. This is exactly the type of project for low impact, low intensity method of getting rental housing in the city, and by the way, committee members, I just sent on another neighbor on the street who is in fact a lawyer and a judge, and actually involved in the landlord-tenant tribunal, who supports the project. Unfortunately, they couldn't get a hold of her earlier, and I've sent it in, and I ask that you please put that into the record, although late, but nevertheless, her address.
It'll be added to the file, but it's not being considered by the committee as it was submitted late.
Understood, but I'm basically telling you what the address is, which is, if you bear with me, 426 Euclid Avenue. Her name is Jane Ferguson.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions? Ian?
Yeah, I just have a question to the applicant. Variance number 3. Sorry. No, sorry. Variance number. Just wait. Number 2. I think that what kind of alteration? I just like to know what kind of alteration you make to the main wall and the faces the streets. I can't see it from your drawings. Can you just explain that? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you look at floor plan drawing A1.1T, it should be about the 1, 2, 3, or 4, fourth one in that one. Yep. So you can see the windows in the bay window that are added, one on each side of the sloped or angled portion of the bay window, and one in the front. And then
you had a bay window there? Oh.
Yeah, there's a bay window that will be excavated under the bay window that's above grade.
Okay. And that's the only.
And then it also shows on drawing A2.1.
Okay.
Scroll down, it's in the elevations. There it is. right there, yeah. So it's that middle window and the two smaller windows to the side.
Or you just put the footing under the bay window?
Correct, exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
yeah. All
And,
right.
and
Because
most of those windows would be obscured just because they're under the porch, and they're so close to, some of it is hidden by a window well, and they're so close to grade.
Yeah, okay, then nothing else changed, just that one.
Yeah.
Okay,
You also demolished the railing. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, panel members?
Just a quick one here. I'm not necessarily germane to the variance. I do notice that you're planning to put 2 units in the basement, and do you have offhand what the square footage of those 2 units are? I mean, they're full kitchen. I see a full kitchen, bedroom, and living area. But I'm just curious what the square footage would be.
Sure. One of them is 621 square feet, and the other one is 471 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
What we excluded from that smaller one is an interior stair. So typically for the GFA, one takes that out, but in a way it's part of their unit as well.
Any other questions? Mr. Niffold, do you have your hand up? I can't tell.
I do. I have some concerns about the capability of this site accommodating the density that's being proposed. One of the things that happens is it generates the need for services, and one of those I would argue is parking. We've heard from the people in the neighborhood that there are parking problems already on the street. The one gentleman indicated that he had some surplus parking that he rents for what he himself felt were somewhat heavy rents, very, very expensive. I'm not convinced about the variances with regard to parking. I'm not sure where you would put the additional parking, which brings me back to my original point. If you can't accommodate the parking, perhaps you've got too much density. Could you speak to that, please?
Sure. So when there were previously tenants, there was no use for they didn't use the parking spaces at all. So if we did, and there are consultants that do parking demand studies, we could have done it. We didn't because Toronto Transportation Services didn't have an issue with it. But they would show, and what they do is there are sort of rates for parking in certain areas, and they would demonstrate that there isn't a high demand for the parking, and that 2 spaces, say 2 out of the units, would be sufficient for this part of the city, which is downtown, and as I said, very close to, has easy access to public transit. So it's just not needed, and the type of tenants that are in these areas that in the space before haven't needed the parking.
But you've already got 2 dwelling units on the site, and you've got 2 parking spaces currently. Is that correct?
There were, when they were tenanted, the parking spaces were not used. That's what I'm saying.
No, but you do have 2 spaces, and you have 2 tenants. You're adding 3 additional units in this proposal, but you're not adding any additional parking. Your assumption is that because the first 2 weren't used, that they would be sufficient for all 5 units. Is that correct?
For the 3 additional units, the 2 parking that are there, yes, we feel that it should be sufficient. And we've done many projects in the downtown core, and Transportation Services would agree with that position, which is why they showed that they did not have concern with this application, because they're centrally located.
Thank you.
And the other fact is simply that the 2 spaces that were there before for the 2 tenants tenant spaces were not even used.
Any further questions, panel members? Seeing none? Okay, we'll take it into committee. Any comments?
Chair, I'll start if no one else wants to. First of all, I just wanted to acknowledge all the people who spoke and those who have written in. Chair, I'd share your thoughts that a lot of them were about the upkeep of the dwelling and sort of the behavior and some of the things that have happened in the past. I would hope that the owner would take those to heart, and if the committee chooses to approve this one, that a lot of those issues that have been raised will be addressed and remedied. I think that would be something that we'd all expect. And in the event that those aren't, there are remedies to find out, fire code and property standards bylaws and other things that can be done. I take everyone's point that these are a point about density. Having said that, listening to and looking at the plans, the size of the units aren't actually that small. They're actually surprisingly large. 600 and 400 feet is not bad for that area. This site is proximate to two very vibrant commercial areas. It's proximate to public transit. It is inner city, and it's the kind of area where we could be trying to support rental accommodation. I get the issue that the neighbors have raised, but as you pointed out, that's not really necessarily within the purview of this committee. We just have to deal with some of it tonight. And looking at the variances and what the ultimate outcome of this proposal, I think it's the kind of thing, given the amount of rental that would be available to people in this area, I think it would be something that I could support.
Okay, anyone else, Ms. Chan?
Yeah, I can second this motion because the thing, what I'm looking at is 4 variances, and 2 of them are concerning about the parking. And since transportation have no concern, as they are to just have the 2, and I do agree with Larry that in the area probably is adequate. And also, when you look at how the 5 suites are being achieved, is that they do not actually make the building the envelope of the physical form bigger. Then it's only sort of like subdivide the interior and alterations the basement. And I don't think with the behavior, with also the maintenance issues is very serious, but I do not think we can discuss that here or have to take note for that. So I'm ready to support the motion.
Okay. Any other comments, or otherwise I'll go with the motion? All right. So motion is to approve the application, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Ms. Chan. All in favor? The application's been unanimously approved. Okay, the next item.
Carl.
No.
It wasn't unanimous.
Oh,
I voted
wasn't it?
against it.
Sorry, I didn't see. Sorry, so you dissented? Carl?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see. Okay. All right, the next item is item number 12. 624 Clinton Street. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, correspondence from Fernando Camara, as well as planning rationale and presentation materials. We have email correspondence from community planning, And I don't believe there are any conditions. We have a 6-signature petition in support from owners of property on Clinton. We have interest expressed from 620 Clinton and or opposition from 626 Clinton, as well as 623, 625, and 627. Okay, I'm showing 4 speakers. Do you have all of them? Yeah. Okay, can I have the agent please identify himself for the record?
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Fernando Camara. I'm the authorized agent for 694 Clinton Street.
Okay, Mr. Camara, you have 5 minutes starting now. We'll need you to do a presentation because you have opposition speaking.
Thank you, members of the committee and Madam Chairman. We have triggered a few of variances. I'll refer to each variance as per the number on the zoning notice. Variances 1 and 2 refer to the positioning of the decks on the ground and 3rd floor. After working with the planning department, we have moved it to 50 centimeters from the property line instead of the original 10 centimeters. We've added a privacy screen at the 3rd story deck. And since then, we have received planning approval, and they share our opinion that this is a minor variance. If you don't mind going to our presentation, slide number 2 now, please. Variance number 3 is referring to the front terrace, which is being built exactly over the same location as the existing porch roof. We are merely changing the slope into flat. For this reason, we believe this is a technical variance and is minor in nature. Variances 4 and 10 talk about the size of the garage and the soft landscape. We are reducing the size of the existing garage and increasing the percentage of the existing backyard soft landscape, making this a technical variance, and I think the committee will appreciate our efforts. Slide number 4, please. Next, I would like to speak to the height variance, which, first of all, I would like to point out that the top of the building height is compliant. Unusually, the top of the main wall height is represented as 4 different variances, number 5, 6, 7, and 8. We believe this is a minor variance for the following reasons. Regarding the front elevation, we deliberately went with a gabled roof dormer for the front-facing portion of the 3rd story to minimize the apparent mass of the proposal. Looking at the side elevation, you'll notice we even sloped the front-facing roof off the side dormer behind the front wall to further reduce its apparent massing from the street. The end result is a very sensible and appropriate 3rd-story addition that reinterprets the overall typology of the streetscape. Slide 4.1, please. Regarding the rear wall, the proposed 3rd-story addition is substantially set back from the existing 2-story rear wall face, around 16 feet. So it will be barely noticeable from our rear yard and the neighbors' rear yards. The north side is abutting against the property line, making it not visible and thus minor. And the south side, in slide 8.4.2, please. Most of the wall is actually at 6.72 meters, with the exception of wall B and a small portion of wall C, measuring at around 12% of the area of the walls. And we have a letter of support from that side neighbor. We spoke with the assistant planner, Ryan Santiago, about the variances, and he has no objections. For all those reasons, the top main wall height variance is minor in nature. Variance 9, our FSI. Our addition is bringing this up by 21% over the allowed. To limit the extent of this variance, we made the addition substantially smaller. In slide A3.1, please. Then the footprint of the existing dwelling. We think the variance is minor because, as detailed previously, the architectural design helps make this home not seem larger or imposing over the neighbors. Furthermore, the addition is compliant with all setback regulations, building depth and building height, giving further testament to the appropriate size of the addition. For these reasons, we think it's minor in nature. And variance 11. The majority of the roof is sloped towards the south side of the property and is compliant. However, we are rebuilding a small portion at the front of the property, making this variance a necessity of the existing building. If you can go to slide A5.1, we've made efforts, concerted efforts to communicate with our neighbors about the proposal. We have either 5.1, please, a little bit farther down. Communicate with our neighbor about our proposal. We have either expressed enthusiastic support or have indicated they had no objections, with the plan gathering 6 fully approved letters of support. In addition, we have been working to address and solve within reason any concerns of those who have indicated them. Specifically, Mitesh at 620 Clinton and Susie Alberto at 626 Clinton Street. With 620 Clinton, they were concerned about the privacy. We agreed to add in privacy screens to our 3rd-story deck, as well as removing a side window from the 3rd story, which is not a zoning variance, as you can see on his letter of support. And 626 Clinton, most of their concerns were about the building strategies, which we've addressed. And another concern is the impact of sunlight. To demonstrate the low impact, we have done a solar study during the March 21st, September 21st, and December 21st morning and noons, ensuring that the loss of light, if any, would be minimal.
You're at 5.5 minutes almost. Can you wrap up, please?
Yes. To conclude, the proposed development is appropriate and in keeping with the general character of the neighborhood. The homeowners are proposing a modest addition to better utilize their home. I think the proposed variances are all minor in nature. For these reasons, I ask the committee grant us the requested minor variances. Thank you very much.
I just have a quick question regarding number 620 had an interest, expressed an interest. They're listed as a speaker. And I'm looking at the letter and they're talking about a change that was made. I just, it says page A 4.2. Did you actually, is that actually part of the plans that you've submitted? The
Yes, the corrected plans that you should have with you to have those changes. We added that privacy screen and we changed to the south elevation.
The privacy screen,
right.
5 feet 6 inches is, what is that in meters?
Yes,
What
they
is,
asked,
yeah, what is that in meters? Because I think there's a standard of 1.
Sorry. Yeah,
I think,
sorry. It should be, it's over 150. It should be around 160 change. I can't give you an exact number,
but
sorry.
I think there's a standard of 1.5. I'm not sure. Madam Deputy
Yes,
Secretary Treasurer, can you just confirm that just 1.5 is the maximum height for the screening on?
Well, because it's not a zoning issue, it becomes a municipal code issue, so it's a fence.
Right.
So I think we tend to stick around 1.5 because I don't know how much higher they can go.
Yeah, I think 1.5 is the standard, so, okay, I just wanted to put that out there. All right, our first speaker, Ms. Alberto, are you on the line?
Could I ask a question first?
Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
I had 2 questions that rather mimic what you've just asked, but just to get clarification. There is an odd wording on the screening. On the north side, it talks about a vegetative screen, and on the south side, it talks about a 5 foot 6 inch screen, but in no case does it basically tell you what they are. And in those axiometric drawings you had, they looked as though they were solid walls. Can you clarify what the screening mechanism is on both sides of that balcony? See on the left, on the piece that's there now, it says the vegetative privacy screen. What does that mean?
That was actually a request from the planning department. He wanted the privacy screen to be vegetated, which means that most likely it'll be built in a way that we can have some sort of plants grow on top of them. I don't know how better to explain it than that. And on the other side is zero visibility.
That's why there's a planter in front of it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so in fact, it's the screen. There has to be a structure behind it for the. It's still a screen. It's a 5 foot 6 inch high opaque screen, if you will, and it doesn't appear from your axonometric that it's actually blocking anything. It looks as though, if your axonometric is correct, that there isn't a need for a screen on that side.
So let me address that again. So on the south side, the one that's actually against the property line, the vegetated privacy screen, is a privacy screen that will allow for some vegetation to grow in front of it. Now on the south side, which is the zero visibility privacy screen, zero visibility was a request from our neighbors at 620, which they have a deck pretty similar to the one we have, and they were concerned about our clients being able to look at their deck. So they requested a zero visibility privacy screen, which means whatever.
And is that the height they wanted? Is that the height that they asked for as well?
Correct. They requested at least I believe it's 167 in centimeters.
And what's the height of the one on the other side, the vegetative one?
That is your standard 150 meters.
So there's a difference in the height.
Yeah, small.
Why wouldn't you just make them both the same?
I think they may have to, Carl.
I'm concerned that with all the descriptions, the objective is going to get lost and nobody's going to understand what it is you're proposing. I would be more in favor of you saying you're going to provide an opaque visual screen along the north and the south side of the balcony at a certain height. That would be, and then if you want to put plants in front of it, great. But I don't know how anybody could enforce this because it isn't clear. And then my second question, which is maybe related to that, has to do with the same letter that the chairman mentioned. In the letter of interest, the gentleman indicated that following my review of these concerns, adjustments were made to the plan as outlined on the attached updated plans. My question is, are the plans that we have before us the updated plans, or are there revisions that are not reflected in the plans we have? Because this gentleman's support for the application seems to be predicated on some changes that you guys negotiated and that you incorporated into some drawings. I want to make sure the drawings we have are the ones that he thinks we're looking at.
Correct, thank you. So number one, for the wording, I'm okay with naming it however you feel comfortable with it. We are okay with having privacy screens around, and we're okay with having it at the same height. We have no objection at it. We worded it that way to appease our neighbor, the minimum height,
okay.
And the wording. The second question, the drawings you have in front of you are the latest drawings. If you can go to the south elevation, I can confirm that for you, but they should be. So I remember sending this to our examiner right after a conversation with the neighbors. One more. South elevation. Yep, there we go. 4.2. Yeah, so in that elevation, where we have right now the skylight, below that we used to have a window, and they requested that we remove that. So we added a skylight instead of the window. And they requested that zero visibility privacy screen. So these are the updated drawings according to that last meeting.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go to the opposition now. Do I have Susie or Will Alberto on the line? Hello? Will, are you there?
Hello, William? You're unmuted.
Hello? Mr. Patel, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi. Can you please start by identifying yourself for the record?
Yes, Dr. Mitesh Patel, 620 Clinton Street, owner.
Okay, and you heard the discussion about the condition that we read in your letter of interest?
Yes.
So, generally speaking, because the screenings do fall under fence bylaw heights, the committee usually, in their conditions, you always use 1.5 meters as the height.
Yes, and we have spoken 1.524 meters. Is that equal to 5'7"? I think I've got that. Is that right?
I think it's not, but it has to comply with whatever the fence bylaw is,
1.2.
which, so we go, yeah. So we go with 1.5 generally.
So- Right, and the builder and the owners and the architect rather have indicated that they would be willing to go to 5'7", and hence that change was made to the plan with zero visibility looking through the fence in order to address the privacy concerns that had arisen.
Understood, but when the building inspector comes and it doesn't comply, they're going to make them cut a part of it off to make it comply with whatever the allowable height is.
And I,
Okay.
Yeah, Yim, go.
In that,
Just one second.
yes, I'd like to help a little bit. Usually the fence bylaw is 1.5, but you can actually add a little bit of lattice screening on top a little bit to increase the privacy, but that's not considered to be the permanent fence height here.
my question would be, how is it considered a fence if it's on a terrace that's on the 3rd floor? This is not a 1st floor structure.
You know, we don't write the bylaws. You know, they get enforced by the people who enforce them, and we approve variances according to what the bylaws are. So I guess what Ms. Chan is saying that if you know the bylaw at 1.5, then the applicant could add a bit of lattice to get closer or maybe equal to what you agreed.
There would need to be some sort of agreement in that regard, but also it was really just around visibility and ensuring zero visibility. And if I may, I can also speak that Susie, the owner of 626, has been attempting to connect, but they're unable to unmute or speak. So there might be some kind of technical difficulty there, but I thought I'd just indicate that.
Okay, we'll keep trying. Thanks for letting us know.
Great.
So
I mean,
I'm not. No, I was going to say you do have a lot of time left, so if there are other issues you want to raise, feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just want the committee to know that the concerns were and continue to be primarily around the privacy issues, which have been attempted to be resolved. Obviously, there's a lot of windows on the side. It would have been preferable not to have anything on the 3rd floor, like a skylight even, but they've done some studies to indicate that it really does just look up to the sky and doesn't look into the other property. I know that there are other neighbors who have concerns that are around the front facade, the elevation, the boxiness of the structure. And I think that those are captured in a different document that has been uploaded as well. And I think that there are others who are wanting to speak to that. So I'll leave that to them. My concerns, particularly given the privacy, were around that 3rd story terrace. And I would ask that the committee consider the privacy ramifications of the property. The house between mine and theirs does not have a 3rd floor. And so so they wouldn't have those kinds of concerns. I would be the only impacted neighbor in regards to privacy. And I thank the committee for hearing my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, are there any questions of the speaker? No? Okay. Have you been able to get a hold of Susie? Are you trying by phone?
Yeah, so she's on the phone. Hi, Susie. Can you speak through your phone and see if we can hear you?
No?
Permission, may I proceed?
Hang on. I just hearing your voice now. Can you just state your name and address for the record to make sure I can still hear you?
It's Susie Alberto.
Yep.
And I live at 626 Clinton Street.
Okay, great. You're good to go, and you have 5 minutes starting now.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to express the concerns for the development plan at 624 Clinton. So we're speaking on behalf of the owner of 626 Clinton. So in addition to our own concerns already expressed in the letter to the committee, we're also in support of the concerns brought forth by our neighbors. The addition of the third story will present issues in terms of height, for example, towering effect. The close proximity, also close proximity issues between houses. For example, at 626, between 626 and 624, there is no walkway. Privacy issues and sunlight exposure. Other newer builds in the neighborhood are set back on the third floor, and in some cases on the second floor as well. So we feel that possibly setting back the floors of the third floor will assist with the issues mentioned. The other issue already discussed as well was the front facade extending further out based on the variance report. We would like to add that as we're aware that as modernization of communities and neighborhoods occur, any existing changes to existing housing styles or rebuilds such as 624 affect the footprint of that community. With more and more houses being rebuilt or redesigned, we lose part of the landscaping of the neighborhood. So we appreciate and we welcome change. However, we want to ensure to retain the look and feel of the classical styles of the homes in Clinton. And there's also a sense of communal environment, which has been prevalent on Clinton for many years and by many homeowners, including my family who has lived on Clinton for 40 plus years. But given that, we appreciating the new owners would like to proceed with their plans. We would like to work with them towards finding a solution to the above concerns. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you very much. Do I have the final speaker on the line? Yeah. Hi, Laura, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, can I please have you identify yourself, name and address for the record?
Yeah, it's Laura Torby, and I'm at 621 Clinton Street.
Okay, we're resetting the clock, so go ahead, you have 5 minutes.
Sure. So, I mean, similar to what Susie just expressed, I mean, we are concerned about the height of the lot. So it's significantly higher than current renovated new builds. And we're directly across the street. So there's a window that faces kind of directly into our main bathroom from the front. So we would be interested in seeing that come down a little bit and perhaps be set back. I have a letter signed by about 9 other residents on the street. I think we submitted that. Do you guys have that?
Is that the petition?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we have that. Yeah.
Great. That's it, really.
Okay.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions of the speaker? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Kamara, are you there?
Hello.
Hi.
Here.
Can you speak only to the issues that were raised, please?
Yes. So starting with the setback for the third floor, we're building it a little bit farther back than the existing house, and also the design of the gable was in purpose to get along with some of the character of the street. And the gable was also to reduce this impact of the third story. Also like to point out that the actual height of the building is not an issue, it's not a variance, it's the main wall height. The privacy, I mean, there's just so much we can do for the third story deck privacy, right? I mean, we're convening with having the privacy screens and the privacy towards the front of the house, that window at the third story. I'm assuming that's the one she was referring to. I can't really assess to that. That's not really a zoning variance. I can't really find a way to have a window towards the front of the house, which is completely allowed, and give privacy to your window towards the front of your house. Sorry about that. I don't know if there's anything else I can give you.
Panel members, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, just a quick question. Can you explain, there's some concerns obviously about the height and the front wall height, I would think in particular. Are there other houses on the street? I did notice that some that had third floors were set back. Any others that have front wall heights similar to what you're proposing?
Similar to what we're proposing, it would be, give me 1 second. There's a couple of attached houses that are a couple of houses up. I believe it is 630A and 630B. Both of them have a similar thing going up. 620 actually goes 3 stories up, just straight up, which is our neighbor, Mr. Patel. And I mean, you can see it down the street in other examples in a couple of blocks down. But we are, I mean, the reason we are having that gable roof in front is, first of all, to keep with the architectural style of the neighborhood, and second of all, to appease that massing. If you notice, that front addition is also set back from the property line. We are trying to mitigate that as much as possible.
In terms of height, I do see 620 and the 2 pairs of semis that you noted at, I forget the address, 630, I guess. Is that going to be mimicking or similar in height to those 2 or same height?
Similar. Again, our height variance is not an issue. The height is not an issue. It's the main wall height.
I understand that. I'm asking about the main wall height.
It'll be similar, I guess. Yes. Let me. Oh, can you show the front elevation for me, please? One more down. There we go. So the top of the gable will be a bit. No, it'll be around the same as the neighbors I mentioned.
Okay, any further questions?
Yes, will be similar.
Panel members, any more questions? Okay, we have no more questions. We'll take it into committee then. Any discussion, comments? Ms. Chan, are
Okay,
you?
maybe
Yeah,
I
go
can
ahead.
start. Yeah, I'm looking at all these variances set today. 4 of them are related to the front wall height, and I also noticed that a lot of newer additions or construction. It seems that the trend is wanting to have more like a flat roof, and it's almost we see that very often. When I will really look at the massing and all, I think we're still fit into the context of the Clinton Street, and with the revision that will after the discussion of the next door neighbor, I'm okay with the proposal. I'm ready to support it.
Okay, anyone else? Mr. Clay, did you want to weigh in at all?
Well, nothing here other than to agree. Clinton Street seems to be the most popular street in the city. It's definitely a street that's in transit. The reason I think you're seeing the development is because it is so well located and is such a popular area. And it didn't, just as Lisa pointed out, it doesn't really appear to me that what's being proposed is dramatically different from the other new builds that are happening on that street and in that area. And while it looks like a lot of variances, you know, the height is the main thing, but it's not an overall height variance. So the design in terms of putting a gable in the front is actually quite sensitive and sympathetic to the architecture of the street, and particularly some of the new builds. So I think I can support this application as well.
Okay, Mr. Niffel?
I was just going to add that I also am able to support the application as it's been revised in consultation with the neighbors. I think the best way to proceed, if anyone may, I gather Yen was going to make a motion. I think we should tie the approval to the drawings that we have before us. They, much of what makes the proposal commendable is the detail with which they've adjusted roof lines and so forth to respond to streetscape and to mitigate against height. And also there have been negotiations with an adjacent owner about where windows go, and they're all reflected on the drawings. So I think tying it to the drawings would make sense. Also, I would be inclined to leave the barrier around the deck as shown on the drawings. And if we say build in accordance with the drawings, I think that that's fine. And if it turns out that that particular barrier is slightly higher than the bylaw, then I don't think there's any problem with the owner adjusting
Mr. Nipfel, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we have to switch the YouTube feed, so I'm not sure if we get cut off or not here. Oh, we can do it out.
I'm done anyway.
Okay, apparently we can just finish this and then do it. Okay, so sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. So I'm prepared to support the application as well.
Okay.
So I'm ready to make the motion for approval tied to the drawings submitted, revised drawings submitted, and also the privacy screen as indicated on the drawing. And I agree with Kyle. I do not know whether for 100% sure that 1.5 fence bylaw apply to balconies. And I know that it is applied to backyards and street yards and all that. So I would just leave it that and move for approval with those two conditions.
Okay, and do I have a seconder? Okay, so motion to approve, including the conditions outlined by Ms. Chan, seconded by Mr. Clay. All in favor? Okay, the application has been approved.
So for anyone watching on YouTube right now, we're going to be switching, and you'll just be looking for the same title, but it'll say PM Part 1, I think.